This guy right here is Alwyn Hector, a hunter who treats lethal threats like minor inconveniences. Trapped in a subterranean swamp, a massive three-eyed beast erupts from the acidic water. The monster gnashes its glowing teeth, ready for a kill. So what happens when you take a battered hunter and drop him into an underground death trap? He doesn't even flinch. He just swings his weapon with bone-crushing force, meeting the horror head-on. He drives his spear straight into the creature's mass, triggering a massive shockwave of pure energy. The beast breaks apart on impact. Turns out, being a giant horror doesn't save you from a spear to the face. But before any of this, a much bigger war was already tearing the icy world apart. Odin, the greatest god, sits on his throne at the center of the world. But he fears the day of prophecy, a warning that all lights will disappear and the giants will rise to kill the gods. To prevent this, Odin begins eliminating all threats, banishing the chained beast Fenrir because he threatened to devour him. He seals Jomungandr deep underwater because the monsters swore to destroy the earth. Then he throws Hel into the sunless afterlife. With the beasts exiled, Odin starts a war to annihilate the frost giants, but their overwhelming numbers halt his army. Exhausted, the gods find their magic apples are no longer enough. So Odin makes a new proposal to Idun, the goddess of life. The frost giants are finally annihilated. But then, Idun dies. Without her, the world freezes over, and through the endless blizzard, long-extinct giants suddenly reappear. Their power easily transcends the old frost giants, triggering Ragnarok. Watching the timeline unravel, Urd, the goddess of fate, asks Odin what he has done because the strings of fate had been severed. To face these new monsters, an armored figure powers up in the freezing mountains. In this world where spring is gone, two survivors rush through a snowy cave because the fight to protect life has just begun. Years earlier, Roxy buys a birthday gift for her sister Leela, hoping she will like it. She meets up with Leela, who asks what she bought, but Roxy refuses to tell her because it is a secret. They exchange books at a local stall, thanking the vendors for always providing the most entertaining stories. Their mother, Asha, shows them a special book she illustrated herself as a birthday present. When Roxy begs to read it, Asha introduces the fairy tale about a golden child who ran away from the sun. The story follows a boy who lived in the sun's castle but prayed to go outside because he was curious about the world. The sun warned him about horrible giants, but the boy realized he was trapped in a cage of lies and decided to escape. He broke down the walls and ran, vowing to change the golden light into a light of freedom. Roxy and Leela gasp in awe. Asha tries to close the book, teasing that they have to leave. The girls protest because the boy was just petrified by fire, so Asha reassures them that the child can always revive as long as he has a heart. Roxy promises to read the rest at home. Suddenly, she realizes their adoptive brother Dino is staring right at the hidden present. She yells at him for ruining the surprise, and Asha urges them to hurry home before it gets late. They run along the path and stop to look up at Odin's castle. Roxy wonders if the kids trapped inside can escape like the boy in the fairy tale, but Leela reminds her that the rumors say the gods pamper them. At the gate of a walled city, someone tells Leela to hurry because they are leaving and presents a travel pass to the guard. The guard scolds the girls for being late and threatens to lock them out next time. The girls protest that they were only a minute late. They promise they will not be late again as they rush forward. Suddenly, a tremor shakes the town, and a woman urges a child to run inside. The guards push Roxy and Leela back out to close the doors, ignoring their protest that it is too cruel. Asha tries to argue they will leave once things settle down, but a guard kicks her to the ground and orders them to leave. Outside, Roxy swears at the man as they face the closed door. They agree the guard is cruel. Asha tells the children they just need to keep moving like they always do. Roxy notes that it is not their first time dealing with this. As they enter a dark corridor, Asha warns them a threat is coming from the left. She instructs them to run toward 2 o'clock, noting they are getting used to this routine. They step through the doorway and wade into the water. They trudge out into the snow. Because new giants emerged to terrorize humans, Odin created a solid barrier known as the God's Dome. However, the dome only protects Odin's chosen people. Out in the snow, Roxy uses a compass and orders Lila to head towards 4 o'clock. Suddenly, a giant stomps the ground and someone screams Roxy's name. Roxy lunges forward to attack. They struggle through the water and flinch as a magical blast expands. The blast launches them backward and a dark entity strikes them down in the snow. The figure attacks, forcing the girls to take cover in a trench. The figure charges its weapon and unleashes a sweeping energy strike. The attack tears through the landscape, leaving the girls trapped in the icy wasteland. The figure sends a blade crashing into the ground, making Roxy scream and scramble to escape. Lila throws herself into the fray. She unleashes a bloodied punch that sends blue energy rippling through the air. She takes a heavy hit. Even then, she refuses to back down. Roxy screams for her sister, but Lila just yells at her to keep running. Later, the two girls collapse in the snow. Roxy admits she thought she was going to die, but she is finally relieved because the giants have left. Dino arrives, gasping for breath. He explains that he heard the giant attacks and ran all the way here because they never showed up. He asks if they are hurt. Lila cheerfully shows off her arm. It glows orange as it rapidly heals its bloody wounds. Dino warns her to stop being so reckless, but Lila just laughs, wondering aloud if her arms would regenerate if they were completely severed. Roxy quietly wishes they lived in the central dome because then they wouldn't be in constant danger. Dino reminds them that entry requires hefty yearly offerings. Lila adds that Asha hates Odin too much to ever let them go. Dino suddenly looks nervous. He apologizes, admitting that Asha is currently at the neighboring village looking for them. Back home, Asha's meditating on the roof. She spots the girl sneaking back and demands to know why they lied about going to the neighboring village. Roxy immediately turns on Dino. She yells that they are never telling him anything again because he promised to keep their secret safe. Roxy tries to argue that the dome has their best customers. Lila insists they are strong enough to fight giants, but Asha cuts them off. She sternly reminds them that they promised never to go anywhere near Odin. Seeing Asha's worry, Lila apologizes and promises they will never go again. Relieved that Lila's arm is fully healed, Asha pulls her daughters into a warm hug. Dino sheepishly asks for forgiveness as he joins the embrace. That evening over dinner, the family happily agrees to visit the village together. The next morning, Roxy tells Dino they need to leave while Asha and Lila are meditating. But Asha immediately catches them from the roof. When Roxy stammers a clumsy lie about chopping firewood, Lila cheerfully reveals that Roxy is sneaking out to make Asha a surprise birthday cake. Roxy is mortified, but Asha just laughs and lets her go. Asha happily declares she will make a fresh cream cake, while Roxy and Dino head out, laughing about their family's inability to keep secrets. Later that evening, Roxy excitedly shows Dino the birthday gift she got for Lila, but he surprises her by pulling out a book he saved especially for her. Touched, she thanks him and promises to cherish it like a treasure. Outside in the snowy night, Dino offers to walk Roxy home, but she refuses, telling him to stay inside because he hates the cold. He hopes Lila will like the cake, and Roxy cheerfully reminds him that she will because they made it together. He smiles and waves as he watches her run off into the woods. But as soon as she disappears, his smile drops and he covers his face in distress as he grapples with his dark secret. Walking alone through the dark forest, Roxy tells herself that moments spent with loved ones shine brightly like a light of freedom. But when the light fades, a vision flashes of a burning house, Asha bleeding on the ground, and Lila being choked. In the shadows, Dino approaches a Valhalla soldier, revealing his true allegiance. Roxy suddenly stops, her eyes wide with sheer panic. Dino, now dressed in a Valhalla uniform, kneels to welcome his master, the god Odin. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, Asha wonders what is taking Roxy so long and considers going out to search for her. Odin appears behind her and notes that it has been 15 years. The ambush strikes suddenly, and an energy beam blasts Asha in the back before she can evade. She collapses into the snow, bleeding heavily from her wounds. Odin notes that the child is doing well and asks where she is. Asha tries to fight back, but she is completely outmatched. Her attacker mocks her for coming alone as a blade pierces her stomach, and she falls defeated. Roxy screams for the men to get away from her mother. Asha lies bleeding on the dirt and orders Lila to run. Odin steps forward, easily blocking their escape, and greets Loxy Marcia. Crushed by the overwhelming pressure, Roxy cannot even move. She instantly recognizes the man as Odin, the god who rules the center of the world. Earlier that day, Roxy had happily waved goodbye to Dino, reflecting that they were as close as real siblings. She had always cherished his kindness, considering him as precious as her own family. On his way back, Dino had wandered into the dark forest, claiming his lantern ran out of oil and he would be late. Back in the present, Dino stands beside the attackers and respectfully welcomes Lord Odin. Roxy stares at her brother in absolute horror. Odin mocks her naive attempt to escape, explaining that he only let them live peacefully so he could keep them under his watch. Roxy breaks down in shock. She realizes that Dino stayed with them for 10 years just to spy on them. Roxy remembers their 10 years together and wonders if every smile was a lie. She weeps, begging Dino to explain why he betrayed them. Before he can answer, Asha screams as Odin strikes her. Roxy screams at the god to let her sister go. Odin ignores her, wishing Lila a happy birthday, because he cannot afford to lose his prize. Suddenly, power erupts from Asha, revealing the true strength of the Golden Tree clan. As Asha's legs fuse into roots, Odin asks if she really never knew his fire would force her to become a tree. He realizes she hid the truth from her children, explaining that their only purpose is to grow golden apples so the gods can maintain their youth. He reminds Asha that he mercifully allowed her to live as a human, yet she repaid him with ungrateful rebellion. Hearing this, Roxy remembers the fairy tale about the golden children trapped in the castle. Realizing it was their actual history, Odin smiles and confirms the name, taunting Asha about how she once had the brightest hair in his domain. He tells her she threw away his protection by rebelling, but promises her pure-blooded child will receive the absolute best treatment. As Odin declares it is time to return home, Roxy sprints forward and screams at him to let go of Lila. Odin finally notices Roxy and remembers her as the only clan member born with black hair, sneering that someone of such inferior blood is still alive. He asks Dino if her powers ever awakened during his surveillance, and Dino confirms they did not. Odin observes that Roxy lacks any power or regeneration, dismissing the ordinary human as absolutely disappointing. He orders his men to kill her. Lila intercepts the strike, vowing to gouge out the attacker's remaining eye if he touches Roxy. But Odin strikes back with overwhelming force, and Lila screams in agony as flames engulf her. Roxy screams her sister's name in sheer horror. The golden child falls and Lila begins to dissipate into golden particles. As Roxy watches in despair, Odin orders Dino to take care of the seed, but the golden child can revive as long as it has a heart. Roxy manages to secure the glowing heart to save her sister. Dino generates a blue energy orb to stop her. The resulting explosion sends Roxy tumbling down a rocky slope. She cries out for her sister, remembering Lila's final moments. Bleeding, Leela pressed the object into Roxy's hands and told her to keep running and not look back. She embraced her sister one last time, saying she loves her. Then Layla screamed for her to run. Back in the present, Roxy flees toward the light, carrying the seed. Odin orders Dino to kill the kid and bring back the seed. Dino obeys, launching an energy blast straight at the girl in the snow. Asha screams Odin's name and charges forward to strike him down. She unleashes her remaining energy, but Odin simply raises a barrier to block the impact. The barrier cracks under the pressure before the two collide. Meanwhile, Roxy clutches the seed and cries out for her mother. She stumbles through the snowy forest to escape. She cries out for her mother as they speed away. Below, an energy beam impales Asha through the chest. Her bloody body collapses onto the rocky ground. Odin catches her, disappointed that she chose to struggle until the bitter end instead of reflecting on her actions. He grabs her head, telling her he should have killed her that day. Asha glares back through the flames, warning him that he will never survive this war. She promises they will drag him to hell. Dino approaches to hand over the seed, and they leave the ruined battlefield behind. Later, back at his fortress, Odin orders a close servant to plant the seed in a suitable body. The servant hesitates, revealing that Dino only handed over a melting lump of ice. He realizes Dino has stolen the real seed of the golden tree. Far away in the freezing snow, Roxy weeps alone. A wound burns Roxy's shoulder. She remembers telling Lila that she would rather be strong than heal fast. She knows she is just an ordinary human. She looks up in confusion and stares into the distance. Elsewhere, a commander is informed that the seed of the golden tree has been stolen. He recoils in shock. He orders his soldiers to retrieve the seed, authorizing them to kill the thief if necessary. The soldiers confirm the order. They run through the snow until one soldier finds traces of blood and footprints. A figure tells them to search every inch because the target could not have gone far. He commands them to follow. He stares at the footprints in surprise. Nearby, an officer stands over Dino and asks why he did not run away. Dino bleeds from a head wound. The officer asks if Dino did all this just to buy time. He demands to know if this was his plan all along. He asks Dino how much of his reports are true, promising to spare his life if he confesses. Dino smirks and asks why he would deceive him if he actually wanted to save himself. He holds a dagger near his chest. The officer realizes Dino has completely lost his mind. He expresses frustration about dealing with one enemy after another. An energy beam approaches him, but a tattooed hand blocks the attack. A character releases a burst of energy. Bodies scatter across the landscape. A projectile crashes down into the area. The battle continues as Kyle Lamon lands a heavy strike, but Megan Yeahas forcefully grabs the lieutenant to hold him in place. Megan endures the blows, refusing to let go. Stepping onto the bloodied ground, Kyle asks if it is even worth saving such an inferior being. Megan tightens his grip and warns the lieutenant not to judge the child's value on his own. Kyle realizes Megan is only trying to stall time so Roxy can escape, and Megan tells him he can either cut his own arm to break free or lose it entirely. Kyle admits this fight will be difficult. However, he unleashes a wave of energy, telling Megan he is curious to see how long he can last. Despite the damage, Megan remains standing, having ordered Roxy to find the Dirt Clan because they are her only chance to survive. As she flees, Roxy remembers Asha telling her that as long as she secured Lila's heart, she could revive her sister. She recalls her mother gripping her hand and urging her not to forget this day. Asha gave her life to shield them. Back in the present, Roxy cries as she runs through the snow with Lila's heart. Far behind her, the injured Megan kneels on the ground and silently asks Roxy not to forgive him. He urges her to make her anger, resentment, or hope the reason she keeps going. Asha's dying command echoes in Roxy's mind, urging her that she must live. She remembers how they survived because they were always together. Asha could always navigate by the stars, and Dino always tried his best to handle the danger. And there was Lila, the one with overwhelming power. Beside them, Roxy was never afraid, but she quietly admits to herself that she envied her sister. Years ago, they were caught in a battle with a giant, and Roxy was badly hurt trying to save Lila. While Lila recovered quickly, Roxy's injuries lingered. As Lila frantically fetched medicine, Asha comforted Roxy, explaining that Lila was doing her best for her just as Roxy had done for Lila. Asha knew Roxy wished she was as strong as Lila. She told her that wishing for something gives a person the strength to move forward, just as the girls were Asha's strength. Asha called the two girls her dream and begged Roxy to protect Lila with all her strength so they could live freely and happily. Roxy realizes she didn't just envy Lila's power. She looked up to her sister's mindset of protecting the people around her. Back in the present, Roxy sits in the dark and weeps as she holds Lila's heart. She remembers Odin calling her an inferior mixed blood and knows she was always different from her family, the only one with different hair and eyes. But they are her precious family, and she wonders if she can become as strong as Lila. Suddenly, she remembers a book Lila had wanted to read and realizes the fairy tale about the golden child might actually be real. She pulls out the book and flips through the pages, finding a passage about the Dirt Clan. The story says the golden child met the child of the Dirt Clan by going over the lying mountain, and Roxy decides that if she follows the story, she might be able to find them. Continuing her journey, Roxy pushes through the freezing cold, vowing to revive Lila even if she has to face Odin himself to do it. She asks a group of travelers about the Lying Mountain, but they have never heard of it. One man suggests she might mean the Foggy Mountain further north. Roxy thanks him and sprints off, ignoring his frantic warning that it is a man-eating mountain. Stepping into the mist, she wonders why it is called a mountain that eats people, but remembers the fairy tale said to simply go over it. She runs forward, but the dense fog quickly blinds her, leaving her terrified. Soon she starts coughing and struggling to breathe, feeling a burning sensation in her throat. Desperate for a drink, she checks her flask only to find it empty, and frantically digs through her bag for a spare. The empty bag triggers a memory of Lila teasing her for always forgetting things, but adding that it was fine since Roxy always took care of her. Clutching the bag to her chest, Roxy fights back tears and softly calls her sister's name. Suddenly she hears the rushing sound of water and sprints toward it. But as a giant eye emerges from the murk, she screams and slips down a steep, rocky slope. She hits the ground hard. Picking herself up, she discovers a waterfall and reaches out in relief to fill her bottle. Her hand sizzles the moment it touches the liquid, and she falls back wondering if the water is acid. Before she can recover, she hears a sudden noise and looks up in shock as a powerful force bursts above her. A sudden explosion erupts above her. The creature collapses, bleeding heavily into the swamp. As the mist clears, Roxy stares in horror and realizes the swamp is filled with human bones. A weak cough echoes through the dark fog. Roxy immediately calls out to ask if anyone is there, following a butterfly through the thick haze to find the source. She approaches a strange structure over the water, only to freeze and ask what kind of bubbles hang from its roots. The survivor struggles against the burning liquid filling his trap. Roxy sprints up the roots to reach him, but she coughs as she realizes the trees themselves are leaking acid. She asks if the man can break out himself. The survivor holds a cloth to his face and explains that the trees, the water, and the fog are all making it impossible to breathe. Roxy knows she has to cut him out immediately. She charges forward with her knife, deciding that she just needs to pop the thin surface directly to free him. She drives a strike into the shell, but the impact sends a jolt of pain up her arm. She recoils, shocked by how hard the surface is. While the trapped man asks if she is okay, Roxy panics. She wonders if she should throw a boulder or snap the tree because she cannot think of any other way to break it. The trapped man coughs up blood, admitting he already tried scratching and punching the shell from the inside to no avail. Roxy stares at the barrier and wonders what her sister Lila would have done. The survivor tells her to run away if it cannot be broken from the outside. Instead, Roxy channels her power and unleashes all her strength into a single punch to shatter the trap. Remembering how Lila would have fought, Roxy yells out as she drives her fist forward. Her strike shatters the creature's head, leaving the survivor in shock as she unleashes another burst of energy. Channeling her power, Roxy tells herself she can do it like Lila and save him. Seeing the toll it takes, the trapped man screams at her to stop and look at her ruined hand. But Roxy ignores him, declaring that she can do it. She clashes with the enemy again, enduring the agonizing pain of her own ability while the survivor watches in horror. Bloody but smiling, Roxy turns to the survivor and asks if he can move, and he immediately confirms he can. A clawed hand strikes and they find themselves fighting a blue serpentine creature. A surge of energy blasts out from the cavern and throws Roxy against the wall. Seeing the creature is connected to the water, she realizes she will die if she gets dragged under. Coughing up blood, she looks at the blue appendage and realizes in horror that she has been caught by a giant tongue. Hearing a roar echo through the cavern, she decides she needs to run away. But as a surge erupts from the water, she realizes she has awakened a giant. A skull-faced creature emerges from the water. Roxy runs deeper into the cavern to escape it. A blue force pushes Roxy back. The multi-eyed monster slides forward, crying out for help and claiming that something outside was his. Roxy decides she has to get out of there immediately. The monster lunges at her, forcing her to flee in panic. She is thrown through the air and hits the ground, coughing up blood. Then a blue tentacle sends her flying again. A purple figure is struck down, and Roxy watches in shock as the spotted creature bursts from the water. The monster growls and looks around. Roxy sits terrified on the ground, wondering why it is suddenly acting like that. Aldwin steps into the cave and swings his energy weapon. He orders Roxy to run away and hurry outside so she can survive. He performs a sweeping attack while firing a beam of light at the monster to distract it. Roxy spots a stone on the creature just as Aldwin's energy beam strikes the monster directly in the face. It roars in pain. Roxy asks Aldwin if he knew its eyes were its weakness. He admits he only guessed and that luck was on his side. The creature's eye glows as it struggles to beg them for help. Its long spotted tentacles wind through the passage. An explosion of magical energy rocks the cave. The two of them run as water splashes around the rocks. Aldwin hopes they can find places to hide if they escape, but he realizes in a panic that a tentacle has blocked their only way out. Aldwin yells at Roxy to get down. He shoves her to the ground just as the monster unleashes an attack through the rocky passage. The creature lets out a loud roar and begs them to save it. Roxy realizes it is coming right for them. A little earlier, during the battle in the swamp, Roxy tearfully admits she is terrified. She realizes this monster is completely different from any she has faced before, and she remembers the family who always protected her. Struggling under the ice, she wonders if her mother and teacher had to confront this same kind of fear. Knowing they will both die at this rate, she whispers to Aldwin, asking him to grab the giant's attention one more time. Aldwin agrees. He shouts and swings his weapon to draw the beast away. The multi-eyed monster roars and turns toward him, leaving Aldwin to frantically wonder where Roxy went. He looks up in shock, realizing she used his distraction to climb right onto the giant's back. Roxy knows her own strength is not enough to pierce its hide. Instead, she decides to use the sheer speed of the monster's own tongue against it. With nowhere left to run, she heaves a boulder upward just as the beast lashes out. The monster slams into the trap, and the impact shatters its rocky body. The ceiling collapses, sending a man tumbling through the air. A rock monster roars from the debris. The impact throws Sean's father backward as he tries to carry his son. He spots a gap in the entrance and shouts that they must leave immediately. He suddenly stops, realizing the water level is too high to step on, and they cannot swim because it is acidic. He lunges forward to dodge the incoming projectiles. He tells himself to focus, remembering he has navigated dangerous roads before. Deciding this is their only chance, he hoists Sean onto his back and sprints. The monster roars as the father runs through the cave toward the light. The beast clutches an orb and fires a beam of energy into the water. Suddenly, they are attacked from behind. The impact blasts them apart. He grips his son's hand and struggles to hold on. The two stare in horror as a skeletal monster emerges from the smoke. Sean tells his father to run away, begging him to let go and save himself because he will be fine. His father asks what kind of nonsense he is spouting. Sean screams with tears in his eyes, urging his father to save himself at the very least. Before his father can answer, a knife is pressed to his neck. At the bottom of the cliff, a giant immediately attacks the surviving soldiers with explosive red orbs. The men are sent falling through the air, struggling to survive the blast. Projectiles pierce through the targets and shatter the creature's attacks. Just as a green arm seizes one of the soldiers, footsteps echo nearby. Roxy steps forward in a dark hood, her body radiating an intense surge of blue and purple energy. The monster shrieks, but she reaches for her belt as the soldier asks if she has darts. She slashes forward, unleashing a wave of purple lightning that crashes directly into the beast. The creature recoils as the energy completely engulfs its body. Condensing her power, she takes out the giant in a single hit. The soldier watches in absolute disbelief, wondering how she could single-handedly take down a monster that usually requires a whole squad. Because the cavern instantly begins to collapse from the impact, Roxy grabs him and another injured man. She channels her power into her legs, kicking a path straight through the falling debris to escape. They burst out of the rocks just as the cave caves in behind them. Covered in blood, the stunned soldier opens his eyes and realizes he is actually still alive. Roxy remembers the day she lost the seed. Dino looks down at her defeated form, mocking her for failing to handle a simple giant. He tells her that unlike Asha, she is weak. Roxy freezes, wondering how this stranger knows her mother. Roxy asks how he knows her name. Dino reveals they are from the same clan. He asks where her sister is because he expected them to be together. Desperate for an ally, Roxy hopes he can finally understand her. She holds out the heart of the golden tree and begs him to help her. She explains her plan. According to her mother's fairy tale book, they just need to take the heart to the Dirt Clan to revive Lila. Dino dismisses the story as ridiculous. He summons purple energy and burns the book. Roxy screams. She demands to know what he is doing. Dino looms over her. He asks who she could possibly save when she cowers at a simple spark of fire. He takes the heart. He tells her to give up because he will handle it now. Roxy scrambles after him. She screams at him to return it. Dino refuses. He grabs her by the throat and strikes her. With a sharp swing of his arm, he blasts her backward. Roxy cries out in agony as she hits the ground, and her companion rushes to support her while she coughs up blood. Dino's arm crackles with energy. He orders her to stay put because she is badly hurt. He criticizes her for failing to learn basic meditation, noting she cannot even circulate her light. He admits he had higher expectations since Asha raised her, but he guesses she only survived because others always protected her. Mocking that all her hard work was for nothing, Roxy screams in distress. Dino dashes forward and strikes her. He pins her against the cavern wall while she struggles to break free. Realizing she refuses to give up the heart, Dino yells he has no choice but to smash it and kicks the object away. Roxy watches in horror as it erupts in light. Dino steps on her back as she gasps for breath, commanding her to move aside. Her companion begs Dino to stop, protesting that he is going too far just because Roxy wants to save her sister Leela. Tears fill Roxy's eyes, but Dino flatly states that her quest is hopeless. Roxy screams that he knows nothing about what Odin did to them. She demands to know how he can speak like that when he has no idea how their mother and sister died. Driven by her grief, Roxy unleashes a powerful blast of energy that tears through the cavern floor. Her companion watches in shock as Dino easily catches her fist. He demands to know what she was doing while her family was slaughtered. He asks if she was even able to stand up when she faced Odin, the god who sits at the center of the world. The truth breaks Roxy's resolve, and she collapses into tears. Dino pulls out her wanted poster and warns her that Odin is looking for her, meaning the entire world is now her enemy. Roxy tells him the danger does not matter because she is going to save Lila. He stares at her. He tells her to prove it. He orders her to climb her way up from the bottom to show her true ability. Roxy plunges headfirst into the dark chasm, and Aldwin screams her name. Roxy wakes up on the cavern floor. The freezing cold aches in her bones as she wonders how long she was unconscious. She remembers Lila's heart. She tells herself she has to get it back before he smashes it. She tries to sprint up the slope, but her leg gives out and she crashes hard. The impact sends a sharp pain up her leg, and she realizes her ankle is broken. Even then, she refuses to stop. She drags herself forward through the snow. Up at the ledge, Aldwin ties a rope. He knows she is strong, but he decides he has to go down and save her. Gerd Egil warns him not to do anything unnecessary. Aldwin shouts back, asking why he is doing this when she might freeze to death in the night. Gerd Egil explains that the Golden Tree clan was created merely to provide eternal life for the gods. He adds that Roxy is now a target because she ran away with Odin's most precious possession. Far away, Loki notes that Roxy is attempting a feat meant only for the gods. He knows she is trying to save Lila. Looking at the artifact, another man asks if it is truly a real heart. Loki wonders what kind of path will unfold ahead of her. He wants to know how many obstacles will block her way. He states that if she cannot survive her current crisis, she should just die now. His companion remains confident that she will climb her way out. Back in the underground crevice, Roxy remembers the first time she almost gave up. All around her, the cavern echoes with groans. The Collector's monster projects the final memories of everyone it has consumed. Trapped inside the mass, the victims beg for help. They run in terror, bleeding and screaming. They plead for anyone to help them. They just want to be freed. Roxy realizes that their minimal hope was crushed instantly. The multi-eyed creature stares down at her. It mimics their voices, begging for help in a stolen tone. It laughs as it replays their desperate pleas. The beast grinds its armored body. The stolen voices continue to cry out from the mist. Nearby, Sean coughs up blood. He is severely injured. Knowing this is his final chance, he screams out in absolute agony. Aldwin Hector remembers how Roxy fought to save him when anyone else would have died. He has never seen anyone so strong, so he is positive she will return. But as he looks out over the snowy mountain, he agrees that she will freeze to death if he does not make it back by nightfall. He realizes her rapid regeneration must have kept her alive, but without the power of light, her stamina has to be at its limit. Down below, Roxy drags herself up a crumbling cliff face. Her arms are already giving out. Suddenly, she looks up to see the rock breaking apart above her. She screams as a boulder slams into her face and crushes her against the mountain. She collapses into the snow, her body refusing to move. She cries in frustration, furious that she could not even keep Lila's heart safe. She wonders how she is supposed to save her sister when she is this weak. Desperate, she forces herself to think. She recalls the survival methods Dino taught her. He told her to look at her surroundings in extreme situations and use everything beneficial to survive. Instead of attempting the impossible, she drags her broken body toward an icy cavern. She realizes that the outside light can still reach her there. The light reminds her of meditation. She remembers her mother Asha sitting with her when she was young, meditating to heal her. When Lila asked why Roxy was not recovering quickly, Asha explained that the deeper the wound is, the longer it takes to heal. In her memory, Asha holds her hands to ease the pain, promising that the light is what makes them strong. Roxy repeats the phrase. Back in the present, Roxy sits cross-legged in the freezing cave to meditate. Her mind races with doubts about Lila's survival and the impossible enemies they face. She breaks her focus with a frustrated shout, convinced she cannot concentrate now because she failed so often as a child. Then she remembers Asha comforting her, insisting there was a reason she made them meditate every single day. Asha told them to feel the light countless times, so Roxy steels her resolve to try again. She listens to her mother. She imagines her body as a single point to erase all other distractions. She circulates her breath. Slowly, she feels the warm energy flow through her. The power sparks between her cupped hands and she springs to her feet. She shouts in triumph because her injured leg is completely healed. Suddenly she notices a strange glare and runs deeper into the cave to see if the sun is setting. High in the mountains, Aldwin realizes it is already late and rushes toward a cave. He leaps down the cliffside, pushing his speed to the limit to make up for lost time. As night falls, he regrets his delay because he really wanted to tell Roxy how thankful he is. Looking at the orb in his hand, he realizes repaying her is impossible and calls it cruel. Back in the underground cavern, Roxy intercepts a strike and rips a core from the enemy. She and Sean land hard in the snow, staring up at the cloaked entity looming over them. Sean shouts in panic as Roxy pushes her power to the breaking point. She unleashes a kick. Years ago, a bleeding Asha hands a sapling to Megan. Asha explains that her life is tied to the tree, warning that if it dies, she will die with it. She begs Megan to find and protect her children when that day comes. Megan accepts the burden, stating that she never makes promises she cannot keep. Asha smiles weakly and says she trusts her. Megan tells Asha that the children will believe her because she is a light of freedom to them, stronger and warmer than anyone else. In a memory, leaves fall around the great tree as they stand together. Back in the present, Megan walks through the frozen mountains and asks if Odin has finally started making his move. She hopes at least one child survived because Asha would not have died without leaving a clue behind. She rushes through the cold to find the sign only they would know. She spots a glint in the snow and stops to investigate. She remembers the day they were attacked, when Asha screams for Roxy to run. Even while taking heavy blows, Asha fights back. Asha calls out to Megan, desperate to reach her children. They dash across the frozen landscape together to save them. Now Megan follows the trail of blood and finds the right path, realizing the children must have split up. Nearby, a Valhalla commander orders his soldiers to search every inch of the area and find her. Knowing the soldiers are close, Megan summons her power. She decides to alter the footprints because she has to throw Odin's men off the trail. A few days earlier, before Roxy ever reaches the Dirt Clan, a hooded figure traverses the blood-stained ice near a wounded creature. In a snowy cave, a teal-haired man excuses himself to Roxy and admits he should not be the one holding the object. He tells her he knows exactly what it means to be born with that heart. He knows the agony of fighting such a fate better than anyone. That is why he never wanted her to come up here. Suddenly, they clash in a burst of energy. The man just smirks. Watching Roxy struggle to hold her ground, he admits she resembles someone else much more than he expected. He corrects himself. He says there might actually be a chance. He orders her to follow him because he is finally willing to tell her where the Dirt Clan is located. Just then, a hunter runs up and calls out to her. He formally introduces himself as Aldwin Hector, and she replies that she is Loxy Marcia. Aldwin screams his gratitude. He swears he will never forget that she saved his life. Aldwin interrupts to announce he is leaving. Before they part ways, Aldwin offers Roxy a small pouch. He explains she should carry the precious heart on her body to ensure she never loses it. Roxy thanks him warmly. They promise to meet again, and Aldwin smiles as she continues her journey. As they walk, her guide explains that crossing the swamp is the only way to reach the Dirt Clan. Roxy stares at the murky waters in shock, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the underground obstacle. She tells herself she has to push through, because surviving this trial is the only way she can save Lila. However, the green-haired man warns her that she will not pass easily, just as a surge of energy erupts beneath her. Roxy runs when she realizes the spikes are teeth, but she turns back to strike the creature. The rebound throws her backward. As she gasps in distress, a giant fist descends from the shadows. It crushes her into the ground. Roxy screams in agony. Her guide explains that the giant kills everything in its path, so she cannot cross without dealing with it first. Reminding Roxy of her promise to save her sister, he orders her to knock the monster down. As Roxy writhes in pain, the multi-eyed beast lets out a horrifying roar. Roxy remembers the horrifying truth about giants, monsters with abilities on a totally different level that regenerate infinitely. She knows they can only be killed if their stone heart is shattered and that they slaughter humans for reasons yet to be revealed. Now, battered and with several of her bones already broken, she wonders if she can actually win this fight. She realizes this giant is on a completely different level than her previous foes. The multi-eyed monster stares down at her and asks if she is scared. Roxy freezes, knowing that if she moves right now, she will die. Suddenly, the creature sinks back into the dark water, and her guide warns her that it will not attack unless they approach the swamp. Roxy lets out a breath of relief but instantly hates herself for feeling relieved just because she survived by cowering. Her guide watches her, knowing it does not take long to realize one's weakness when faced with an overwhelming power gap. Desperate to survive, she begs to be taught how to fight, while a severed arm lies bleeding in the rubble. Roxy screams that she wants to be able to fight just like her. Megan warns her that the path will be so difficult she might regret asking. Furious and desperate, Roxy swears she will never regret it and begs her to teach her. That marks the beginning of Roxy's training under the rebel leader, starting with carrying a boulder up a mountain. She cannot come down until she sees the golden light, leaving her shivering with frostbite every day. A few months pass on the frozen peak, until Roxy realizes she no longer feels the cold as heat begins to circulate through her body. Megan explains that this heat is Goddess Idun's power, and that the gods created their clan to serve as superhuman shells. Their entire purpose is to protect the golden apple, but some ancestors awakened a new power of the heart called light-bearing. Because the golden tree uses light as its strength, the clan circulates absorbed light through meditation to constantly supply energy to the goddess's heart. That light transforms into heat, and Megan promises Roxy that absorbing more light will strengthen her body. She orders her to keep moving forward to build strong roots that will never fall in any storm. Once Roxy learns to contain the light, Megan forces her to meditate on slippery logs and endure extreme situations in a swamp. One evening, an exhausted Roxy carries her dinner back through the woods while Megan sleeps. Suddenly, a whip-like attack forces her to drop her bucket, and she is yanked upside down, realizing she has walked right into a trap. Roxy suddenly finds herself hoisted upside down by a snare, and Aldwin rushes over in a panic. He is shocked to see he just trapped Roxy, who is equally surprised to see him. Roxy notes his hunter background, explains his aim, while Aldwin is surprised she missed the traps. Aldwin asks about her training and offers to help, though Roxy insists she is doing fine. When he asks about her diet, she admits she and Megan are terrible at cooking. Aldwin immediately volunteers to handle their meals, running off to prepare dinner while Megan watches. Later, Roxy tries to meditate in the swamp, but a flying rock suddenly strikes her arm. Megan announces they are starting combat training, demanding Roxy dodge 100 stones a day. Aldwin throws the stones himself, apologizing profusely because the teacher forced him to do it. Roxy struggles to deflect the barrage, so Aldwin asks why she never uses her legs. He reminds her that she runs incredibly fast, suggesting her legs are her real strength. Roxy realizes he is right, admitting she only used her arms to copy Lila. Taking his advice, she switches to kicking and immediately shatters the incoming targets. After half a year of practice, she manages to take down half the stones thrown at her. She pushes through the final barrage, crying out as she takes heavy hits. Megan calls out to her, acknowledges her improvement, and invites her to spar. Roxy panics, but Megan warns that she will attack first, leaving Aldwin shouting in distress. Over hundreds of sparring matches, Megan teaches her to put everything into a single strike. She instructs Roxy to gather all her body heat into one spot and condense it, raising her temperature so high that she can burn anything she touches. Watching the energy surge, Roxy realizes this heat manipulation is exactly how her teacher Megan Yahaz burned the fairy tale book. However, the memory of her purple flames only reminds her of death, and the trauma leaves her trembling. She remembers how she failed to land a single hit on Megan, her body so broken that even her regeneration felt useless. Because she could not erase her fear, a whole year passed without her ever learning to condense the light. Back in the present at a bustling market, Jack finds Aldwin Hector and asks why he has been avoiding the hunting grounds. Before Aldwin can answer, a soldier interrupts them and unrolls a wanted poster for Loxy Marcia, offering 100 million Yera bounty. The soldier announces that she is a dangerous fugitive, prompting a nearby butcher to quickly deny having seen her. Jack stares at the bounty and asks what she did to earn such a price, and the soldier explains she is wanted for treason and murdering her own family. He orders the hunters to report to the military immediately if they cross paths with her in the wild. As the patrol moves on, Jack asks Aldwin to handle his daily catch, but Aldwin grips his arrows and says he has somewhere to be. He seethes with anger. Furious, the military would blame Roxy for a slaughter she did not commit. Aldwin sprints away down the street, leaving Jack to wonder what has gotten into him. During a training session, Megan orders Roxy to condense the light. She lunges forward and delivers a powerful kick. Megan points out that her power is completely scattered, explaining that she cannot launch a strong attack without condensing it. She reminds her she has told her this many times, prompting a quiet apology. A scout rushes up to the group, warning that Odin's army has reached the town and is searching for Roxy. The reason is her approaching 18th birthday. That day marks the start of her adolescence, meaning the golden apple can be harvested from her once a year. Roxy remembers Dino holding her close and telling her the harvest time had come. She knows Odin wants to find her and Leela's hearts before that happens. Hearing the word harvest, Aldwin stares in shock. Megan abruptly stops the training for the day. Roxy insists she can keep going, but Megan tells her it is useless because she is still just as nervous as she was 2 years ago. Aldwin sits beside her and mutters that the teacher is being too harsh. Roxy admits Megan is right. She confesses her fear that the condensed heat will turn her into a tree, leaving her paralyzed forever. Aldwin listens in silence. Aldwin Hector asks if she will practice at the giant swamp again. Roxy confirms, because having a goal helps her concentrate. From the trees, a dark silhouette watches them. The figure holds a wanted poster for Roxy. At the icy swamp, Roxy condenses power into her leg. She tries to blast her way across, but the energy shatters. The backlash sends her crashing into the rocks. She lands face down in the snow. She groans in pain and urges the power to work because she has to cross. She pushes off the ground and runs forward again. The power fails once more. She screams in bloody frustration. Meanwhile, back in the snowy village, Aldwin notices the camped-out soldiers have finally left. His friend Jack approaches and hugs him. He tells Aldwin he should be thankful for the rest of his life. Jack smirks. He admits he saw right through Aldwin's acting this morning and pulls out Roxy's wanted poster. He reveals he followed them into the forest. He watched them resting, realizing what happened. Aldwin grabs Jack by the collar and tells him to stop because Roxy is his friend. Jack just laughs at the word friend. He asks who would be friends with a 100,000 Yera bounty. He warns Aldwin that hiding her is treason. Smirking, Jack announces he has already reported Roxy to the military. He claims the bounty entirely for himself. Aldwin chases after Jack, accusing him of selling out their friend for the bounty. Suddenly, a bright energy beam blasts past Jack and strikes the ground, stopping him in his tracks. Jack freezes in terror. Aldwin aims his weapon, warning Jack to shut up before he puts a hole in his head. Before Aldwin can fire, a foot crashes into the water and he calls out Roxy's name. Roxy forces power into her injured leg to escape, but she loses her footing and collapses in the snow. She realizes the Valhalla army has already found her. The commander orders the soldiers to surround her. They immediately raise their rifles. Nearby, a wounded Jack wonders how the army tracked them here. He decides he has to run. However, a soldier steps in and warns that he will be shot if he moves. Suddenly, a voice screams for the soldiers to stop, warning them that the snow is hiding a swamp and a giant lives inside it. The warning comes too late. The soldiers cry out in pain as dark creatures surge from the hidden swamp to attack them. The blast throws Aldwin backward through the air, knocking his weapons from his hands as he stares in shock. The Valhalla soldiers scream in terror as a multi-eyed giant rises from the ice to crush them. The Valhalla soldiers panic as the giant beast swells even larger and they scramble backward through the snow. One of the men realizes they have no weapons to fight it. He frantically wonders how he can retreat without abandoning his men to die. Nearby, the multi-eyed creature advances and Roxy watches, breathing heavily. A soldier falls to his knees in terror. Roxy tells herself she is not prepared to fight it yet. A purple-haired soldier screams as the creature grabs him. Roxy hesitates, reminding herself that these men came to capture her under Odin's orders and that they are her enemies. She remembers the day her own bones were shattered. She wonders if she can really risk her life against a giant just to save an enemy. Roxy makes her choice. Aldwin and Roxy break from cover. The remaining Valhalla soldiers stare in shock as they recognize Loxy Marcia. She sprints straight toward the beast. The creature reaches for her. One of the soldiers yells that she is reckless, asking if she would rather die to a giant than be caught. Roxy tells him it does not matter if they are her enemies. She leaps into the air. She declares that because they are all human beings, she has to save them. She drives a heavy kick right into the monster's lunging fist. The soldiers watch in disbelief as the giant's attack is deflected, but as she strikes, the creature's body turns into mud. Roxy kicks away from the shifting mass. She crouches on a nearby rock, realizing that if it can freely change its shape, physical attacks might be completely ineffective. The Valhalla soldiers are horrified to see the enemy heal so quickly. The monster unleashes another burst of power and shifts its form entirely. One of the soldiers screams that Winter is dead. The commanding officer immediately orders a retreat so his men can survive. He tells his subordinate to run back to the castle and report that Loxy Marcia is here, alongside a mud-shifting giant. He begs them to send Captain Rubel because they cannot handle this alone. On the ground, a wounded soldier groans. He realizes he cannot move his body at all. The giant creature looms over them and asks if they are scared. The men weep in terror. The beast declares that their fear must be delicious. It lifts them toward its open mouth. Suddenly, a light bursts from one of the captive's chests. He vomits a mouthful of blood as the mass consumes him. A soldier watches helplessly from the rubble. He shouts that the man's heart is being pulled straight into the giant's stone to feed its power. The beast bares its teeth. The captive drops to the ground, bleeding out. His comrades scream in horror. The giant lifts another dying man and asks if the survivors are scared too. The remaining men clutch their chests as the same light tears through them. Nearby, a voice commands them to fight. The speaker refuses to stay down. Someone screams Roxy's name. The monster thrashes against the sudden resistance. It spits a liquid. Roxy lunges forward, asking if it really thinks it has won. Roxy refuses to let the beast advance. She blasts it with a sudden wave of energy. Nearby, two Valhalla soldiers stare in absolute shock. They realize their mission to capture a kid is ruined because she is fighting a giant on equal footing. Bloody but crackling with lightning, Roxy pushes herself to the limit. The creature flexes its rocky arm to crush her. She strikes the beast with a fiery attack. The creature looms against the sky as Roxy descends on it in a beam of light. She realizes that if its body turns to mud, she can use that to her advantage. She charges forward. The monster retaliates to protect itself, unleashing a heavy attack as a dark mass descends upon her. While Aldwin struggles in the flames, Roxy slices the monster with an energy slash. She remembers a past lesson where her teacher shattered a boulder. To win, she must strike the core strongly and precisely in a single blow. Roxy drives a kick into the crystal to target the giant's heart. She screams that she will break it this time, but the beast lashes out, sending the soldiers flying. Roxy is struck and sent tumbling. The impact throws them toward the chasm. Kyle struggles to carry two unconscious men, realizing they are about to fall into the swamp. A sudden strike impales a soldier straight through the chest. The dying man bites onto his comrade's uniform in a desperate final struggle. The remaining men scream for the lieutenant as the giant towers over them. Kyle watches in shock, realizing Roxy did not run away but instead stepped in to protect the very soldiers who just shot at her. As the ground shifts, he screams for Marcia, warning her that the swamp is moving. Roxy is certain she shattered the giant stone until a grotesque multi-eyed creature emerges from the depths. She stares in horror, realizing the crystal did not break completely. She briefly curses herself for not attacking it one more time. Refusing to give up, she dives straight toward the monster's gaping maw to strike its core. A beast emerges from the darkness, and a terrified man admits he is scared. The monster roars and drags him into a vortex of spikes. It impales the soldiers and looms over them to finish the job. The men shout to retreat because they cannot fight it, but the creature roars again. They fire their weapons in a panic, but the beast tells them to feel the fear of death. They fight back against the tendrils to stop the coming of death. Another soldier is caught in the beast's jaws, and a survivor cries out that he failed to save his comrade again. Suddenly, an explosion of fire erupts, and the men watch in shock as the flames swallow the beast. The creature tries to unleash its own energy to survive, but it is completely destroyed. A survivor huffs under the rubble and wonders who could have turned the giant to ashes so instantly. He looks up as a soldier salutes the arrival of their commander. The survivor realizes this is Captain Cecilia Rubel, because only the Einer jar of flame could create a pillar of fire like that. The remaining flames wash over the area as she secures the battlefield. Cecilia unleashes her power, drawing her sword in a burst of red energy, and calls out Loxy Marcia's name. She declares that under Odin's command, she will arrest her, leaving Roxy screaming in shock. She leads the Valhalla army, whose top commanders possess bodies like steel to destroy giants. These Einarjar are chosen by Odin himself, and their shadowy presence commands absolute fear. Cecilia steps forward, her blade radiating heat. The blast paralyzes Roxy as she tells herself she needs to run away. Aldwin attacks to buy her time, but Cecilia simply readies her sword. Aldwin realizes the flames are moving, and the intense heat engulfs him. Cecilia kicks him aside, leaving him distressed as she flies past. She orders her troops to capture Roxy immediately. Roxy tumbles down a deep canyon as soldiers push a heavy crate into position above. She falls hard into an open hatch, cursing as she hits the ground. Frustrated and trapped, she screams in distress and coughs up blood. The Valhalla soldiers secure a chain container and announce that Loxy Marcia has been arrested. Inside the crate, Roxy bleeds from a giant's bite and struggles to break free because she exhausted her strength fighting the beast. She punches the walls repeatedly, but her attacks leave no damage. Captain Cecilia Rubel tells her to stop trying, explaining that the prison is sealed with an unbreakable rune spell. Cecilia then orders the convoy to head for the southern base. Lieutenant Kyle Lamon approaches, and Cecilia instructs him to take over leading the escort. Kyle hesitates, pointing out that Roxy just saved them from the giant, and admits he cannot believe she actually murdered her own family. Cecilia cuts him off, asking if he intends to question Odin's command. Kyle quickly clarifies that he is only offering his opinion. Cecilia tells him to forget they ever had this conversation, warning him that speaking of it again will cost him his head. Kyle steps away to scout for more giants, while the guards outside the crate demand it be opened. As the convoy moves through a mountain pass, Roxy continues to strike the walls. She tells herself she cannot be captured now because her fight has not even started. An explosion shakes the crate, and Roxy catches the smell of gunpowder. As snow falls, blasts tear through the Valhalla ranks, and Kyle orders his men to put their backs to the wall. He notices that the attackers are firing explosives attached to arrowheads, aiming precisely at the soldiers' feet. He realizes they are only trying to cause confusion without killing anyone, because their sole purpose is to take Roxy back. Another blast shatters the cart, sending Roxy falling through the air. Aldwin rushes into the smoke and tells her to hold on tight. Roxy calls out his name. Blaming his own carelessness because Roxy got caught, Aldwin plunges into the chasm, vowing to hold on until their teacher arrives. He hauls on a thick rope to spring the net. Roxy looks out through the bindings in confusion as the ropes creak around her. The Valhalla soldiers stare in shock, unable to believe a single hunter built such an elaborate counter-trap on his own. Roxy cries out his name. Lieutenant Kyle Lamon flees in a panic, feeling utterly pathetic because his squad failed to land a single hit. Sliding down the rocky cliff, he screams for them to stop. Roxy frantically asks if Aldwin is hurt, but he cuts himself free from the tangled ropes and promises he is fine. Gripping the lines with his bare, bloody hands, he swears he will never let the soldiers catch her. In a flashback, Aldwin grabs Roxy and leaps straight off the mountain edge. As they plummet down the cliff, a terrified Roxy begs to take the long way around because her heart cannot take the drop. Aldwin warns that walking around would completely exhaust them before they reach the swamp. But Roxy insists she would rather build stamina than have a heart attack. Aldwin stops in the snowy forest, sensing someone on the cliff. He remembers the day Roxy surprised him by building a bridge just to make his trips across the ravine easier. He had warned her not to tire herself out since her training left her no time to sleep, but she insisted it was no trouble because it was for a friend. Earlier, Aldwin watches in horror as Valhalla soldiers secure a prison cell. Seeing the 3 stars on the leader's shoulder, he realizes Roxy has been captured by a captain. He knows stepping forward will only get him caught too, and he has no idea where his teacher Megan is. But he refuses to just watch them take Roxy away. Remembering a military base past the cliffs to the south, he realizes he can buy some time. The soldiers have to take the long way down the cliff because they are dragging the heavy prison cell, which will take them half a day. Aldwin, however, has the rope bridge Roxy built. He knows it gives him enough time to completely outrun them. Sprinting through the snow, he starts gathering all his mountain traps, planning to weave them into a net strong enough to catch the prison cell. He drags the ropes and tells himself he has made bigger nets before, but worries a mistake in his timing will doom her. Forcing his doubts aside, he crosses the gap and fires his crossbow to destroy the bridge, ensuring the soldiers cannot use it to follow him. He thanks Roxy for the bridge as it collapses into the ravine. Deep underwater, a beast stirs. Back in the present, Aldwin vows that he will never let them catch Roxy as they ride a suspended container over the dark landscape. Lieutenant Kyle Lamon yells for them to stop and leaps after them. Aldwin yells at the soldier to let go, but Kyle refuses, shouting that he will fall to his death if he does. Aldwin hacks at the thick rope to drop the cell on the other side, panicking because it refuses to snap. The 2 men struggle on the tangled ropes, shouting and blaming each other for the mess. With a final strike, the line snaps and the heavy cell crashes down onto the far cliff. From inside the cage, Roxy asks if he is okay, and Aldwin confirms they made it across, but Kyle aims his gun at Aldwin's back. He explains that he owes a debt to Roxy, promising to let the hunter walk away if he just surrenders. Roxy begs Aldwin to run, promising she will figure a way out herself. Aldwin refuses. He aims his crossbow and tells her that she cannot break out of this cell alone, so this time he will protect her. Suddenly, Captain Cecilia Rubel arrives, declaring that Aldwin will die by her hands. She slashes the hunter across the back and Roxy screams his name. As Roxy thrashes against the bars, Kyle begs his captain to stop, protesting that Aldwin is just a civilian. Cecilia steps down hard on the bleeding hunter. She reminds Kyle that Odin himself ordered Roxy's capture, making anyone who helps her a traitor. She warns her lieutenant not to interfere, vowing to eliminate anything that stands in the way of their mission as Aldwin groans in pain. She raises her sword for the killing blow as Roxy smashes her fist against the barrier, screaming for them to leave him alone. Behind the broken barrier, a survivor reaches out and groans in pain. The attacker cries out in agony as the lightning tears through the area. Gritting her teeth, she forces out one final attack to clear the debris. Looming over the survivors, the giant asks if they belong to the Flame Clan, because their skin is surprisingly tough. Falling through the sky, Aldwin calls out for his teacher. A woman steps in and tells Aldwin he did well to endure so long. It is Megan Yehaz. Kyle Lemon stares in shock, and Megan dryly notes that he seems to be recognized. Kyle replies that nobody in the Valhalla army could ever forget him. 17 years ago, during the battle at the Central Dome, Megan led the rebels and earned the title, the one who pierces through the sun. The soldiers freeze in panic. Cecilia Rubel simply smirks and tells Megan it is an honor to finally meet her. Megan warns her to watch her mouth, because she abandoned that name a long time ago. Kyle remembers the stories about Megan Yehaz, the legendary rebel leader who broke Odin's strongest barrier to destroy entire military units. Cecilia Rubel feels suffocated just standing near her, so Kyle begs the captain to evacuate. Cecilia refuses to retreat and readies her weapon. Megan explains that the cell's rune is designed to transfer any exterior impact directly to the prisoners inside. Roxy realizes the prisoners will be crushed if anyone tries to break the cage. Aldwin screams at his teacher to dodge, but Megan admits there is nothing she can do. She tells them they have to break through on their own before stepping into the blast. Aldwin watches in terror and screams her name. Kyle recognizes the rose-shaped flame immediately because it is the exact technique that once wiped out a giant in a single strike. Cecilia unleashes her own attack, declaring that not even 100 giants could survive her magma. She warns Megan that a legend of the Golden Tree Clan is still just a tree, and trees burn. The two forces collide, leaving the landscape completely melted. Aldwin falls to his knees in the rain and cries out that this is too much. Cecilia Rubel stands in the pouring rain, assuming the battle is won and preparing to make her report to Odin. However, Roxy's voice cuts through the downpour, asking if Odin told her that Tree Clan members freeze when they touch fire. Roxy steps forward and absorbs the attack, feeling the heat building in her body. Cecilia stares in absolute shock, realizing Roxy's body temperature has exceeded 1,000 degrees and completely overpowered her own flames. Roxy lunges forward and delivers a punch that shatters the landscape. Lieutenant Kyle Lemon screams for his captain as Cecilia is sent crashing into the icy cavern below. Coughing in the dust, Cecilia realizes Roxy stopped her fist right before impact, using only shockwaves to strike her down. Furious that her opponent is holding back, Cecilia vows she will drag Roxy to Odin, even if she has to use cowardly tricks. She unleashes an explosion, prompting Aldwin Hector to yell for Roxy to hurry and escape. The flames trigger a memory for Roxy. Years ago, she cowered in terror while Megan Yehaz ordered her not to stay frozen in place, and the young girl cried that she could never be strong. Back in the present, Cecilia notes that when Roxy is in danger, her allies ignore their surroundings, and Aldwin screams for his teacher as she redirects her attack toward Megan. Cecilia Rubel stabs Megan Yehaz through the chest to test if the old rumors about her are true. She reminds her that 17 years ago, she took a fatal wound in battle that permanently destroyed her regeneration. Aldwin watches in horror and screams for his teacher. Megan ignores the blade, strikes back, and asks Cecilia if she really thought a single cut would stop her from beating her down. He scorches his own wound to stop the bleeding, because his body can no longer heal itself. Cecilia struggles against his overwhelming physical strength, wondering how a dying man can still fight like this. Megan blasts her backward. Cecilia immediately commands him to freeze. She unleashes a wave of heat toward the prison cell, prompting Aldwin to scream Roxy's name. Megan looks over to see Roxy trapped inside a runic cage. He explains that the trap is designed to hold sinners by transferring all exterior impact directly to the prisoner, making any rescue impossible. Inside, Roxy cries out that the heat is breaking her bones. Cecilia warns Megan that if he takes a single step closer, Roxy will be burned to ashes. Roxy writhes in agony as her skin begins to scorch, leaving Megan paralyzed as he reaches out to his suffering student. Aldwin yells at their attackers, furious at their cowardice. Suddenly, Roxy feels her skin cracking and realizes it is turning into wood. She begins to shake, recognizing the same paralyzing fear that trapped her before. She falls to the ground, lamenting that her weakness always leaves her unable to protect anyone. Then she remembers Asha ordering her to survive, and her own tearful promise to live and save her sister Lila. Just then, the voice of her teacher, Megan Yehaz, tells her to open her eyes and look at herself. Roxy clenches her fist and gasps in shock, realizing she can actually move. She remembers Megan explaining that absorbing light to circulate heat raises her body temperature, which makes her more durable. He told her that the fact only her skin turned to wood proves her body has grown strong enough to withstand the heat. Megan admitted that overcoming fear is hard, because once fire turns their clan into a tree, they can never revert. Back in the present, Roxy realizes she has already passed that wall. Captain Cecilia Rubel unleashes her attack, mocking Roxy for only enduring a little heat when direct contact would kill her in seconds. Roxy asks if she thinks it is just a little heat, reminding her that fire means instant death to the Golden Tree Clan. Roxy stomps forward and drives a punch into Cecilia's attack. Cecilia stares in shock, calling it impossible, before Roxy asks if she really does not understand what surviving that fire means and strikes her with full force. The desperate clash pushes both fighters to their absolute limits. Nearby, a young ally charges forward to help. He screams Roxy's name across the freezing wasteland. Watching from the falling snow, Dino smirks at the disaster. Cecilia Rubel drives a punch into her target. The recoil is so violent that she gasps, feeling her own bones snap. She strikes Roxy while she is down, shocked to realize the girl's skin is harder than a prison wall. Roxy coughs as the relentless assault continues. Furious, Cecilia declares she is done trying to take Roxy back in her current state. She unleashes a blast of red energy. She screams as the fire consumes the entire battlefield. Far across the mountains, Aldwin Hector spots the distant inferno. He rushes to his teacher, Megan Yahaz, who is coughing up blood in the snow. Megan clutches his chest, realizing his internal circulation is ruined, and admits he can only hope Roxy survives. He orders Aldwin to turn back, warning that staying will brand him a traitor. Back at the crater, Roxy lies fainted on the earth. Cecilia carefully lowers her temperature, because burning the girl further might force her to turn into a tree. She grabs Roxy by the shoulder and hauls her up through the cavern. She pulls her captive along, knowing she must return to the castle immediately. But as she walks, her hand trembles, and she realizes her own strength is finally failing. Cecilia realizes there are too many unexpected variables. She remembers being overwhelmed by the rebel leader, Megan, and admits she never expected Roxy to break out of a rune magic prison cell. Roxy tells Cecilia to let go. She screams that she did not commit treason and never killed her family. She begs the captain to believe her, insisting that Odin made the entire story up and that Cecilia is being fooled. Cecilia replies that Roxy should have just run away. She explains she only stopped trying to kill Roxy earlier because her own mission was already complete, then threatens to kill her now if she insults Odin one more time. Roxy asks how it can be treason to give everything to save her sister, who was murdered by Odin. She argues that running from gods who treat her like a tool to protect her family should not be a crime. She breaks down crying that it is unfair. Looking at Aldwin, Roxy remembers how he always believed in her. He cheered her on and stayed by her side through every sadness. She realizes his unwavering faith is the only reason she can endure this hardship. Cecilia refuses to believe that Odin would do such a thing and attacks again. She swings her weapon, shocked that Roxy still has the strength to move. Roxy forces her back. She realizes the captain has finally reached her limit too. Frustrated, Cecilia screams that this resistance is meaningless. Aldwin begs Roxy to run away, but she refuses. She tells him she will regret it forever if she flees. She vows to fight so that her past nightmares never repeat, because she has to protect him. Telling herself she has to end this right now, Roxy gathers all the remaining heat in her body into one place. She condenses the energy and drives a strike straight into the ground. The impact unleashes an explosion of light. Watching from afar, the rebel leader Megan Yahaz smirks. He is deeply satisfied that his student finally mastered the technique. Aldwin calls out to Roxy, relieved that she pulled it off. Cecilia Rubel takes the hit and is horrified. Roxy's strength is now on a completely different level. She vows she will never surrender, even if her own body breaks. Roxy does not hesitate. She counters with a blast and a kick, catching the captain in the explosion. Cecilia crashes into the rocky terrain. She trembles, realizing that defeating her target is now impossible. Lieutenant Kyle Lamon pants heavily nearby, shocked to see black blood. Cecilia stares at her ruined hands in defeat. Kyle notices something wrong. Cecilia's flames are dying down and she has completely stopped attacking. Suddenly, Roxy vanishes. Aldwin frantically searches the smoke-filled air until he spots her collapsed in the distant snow. He screams for her to wake up. Desperate, Aldwin begs his teacher Megan for help, because Roxy is completely unresponsive and her body is literally burning away. He watches in horror as the flames continue to consume her. Megan tells him they must reach the highest mountain peak. Roxy has used up all her light, so she needs the sun. At the snowy summit, Aldwin lays Roxy down. He asks his teacher if she will wake up. Megan explains that Roxy burned her own skin to condense her light, completely overloading her ability to regenerate. Even so, he promises Roxy will survive. In a flashback, Cecilia Rubel stands before Odin. She asks if he truly wants her to kill Roxy, and Odin confirms it. Cecilia hesitates. Roxy is an honorable member of the Golden Tree clan, and Cecilia only wants to protect her castle's children. Odin declares that Roxy committed murder and rebelled against him. He will show no mercy. Cecilia bows and accepts the order. Odin reminds Cecilia that Roxy carries the stolen Golden Tree seed, and he clenches his fist as he vows to reclaim it. Suddenly, Loki interrupts from the doorway. He casually mentions he would prefer Roxy to be captured alive. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kyle Lamon sprints through the grand halls of Valhalla. He calls out for Captain Rubel to wait. He offers to go with her, but stops in shock. The woman who never took a scratch in battle is bandaged. Kyle begs to face Odin with her. His carelessness allowed Roxy's ally to breach the prison, so he wants the punishment. Cecilia immediately refuses. A subordinate's failure belongs to the captain, so she will shoulder the responsibility alone. As she walks away, she asks if he is all right. Kyle quietly thanks her for caring. Cecilia Rubel stands alone in the grand hall. She struggles to organize her thoughts, wondering if the fugitives were truly of the Golden Tree clan. She had assumed the whole clan shared the golden hair she saw at the castle. Because her duty as captain is to annihilate giants, she found the order to capture a wanted person strange. Now she remembers Roxy screaming that Odin made everything up. Cecilia clenches her fist. She cannot understand why the girl would save the very enemies who tried to hurt her. She recalls the agonizing desperation in Roxy's cries during the battle, wondering if fighting to save a murdered sister is truly treason. Throughout the fight, she felt a creeping discomfort she forced herself to ignore to complete her mission. But now, she is absolutely certain. Loxy Marcia is not a criminal. Later, Cecilia approaches the altar in the throne room. Odin tells Rubel he is disappointed. He reminds her she can wipe out giants, yet failed to capture a single kid. Cecilia bows her head in apology. He demands to know why she let the girl go. She explains that Megan Yahaz was there. At the name, Odin's eye glows with a dark surge of power. He bristles with anger, realizing the rebel leader survived. He asks if Cecilia's injury is from him. Cecilia admits she was hurt fighting Megan, but reveals that it was actually Roxy who made her bleed. Odin is stunned. He asks how a mere child could possibly scratch the dragon's scale. Realizing Megan must have trained the girl, Odin grits his teeth. He mutters that she has thwarted him once again. Back in Valhalla, Odin dismisses Cecilia Rubel. She begs him to wait. He reminds her she failed to capture her target. If she wanted her seal strengthened, she should have succeeded. He warns the bleeding captain. If the seal breaks, the blood will completely dominate her. In the present, Odin stands alone in his hall. He clenches his fist as a dark affliction spreads across his own palm. He curses the inferior species that caused it. A voice breaks the silence. Loki notes that Roxy is proving troublesome, and Odin tells him to leave. Loki takes the form of a smirking black cat. He claims he came to comfort the god, but Odin knows he is only here to gloat. The creature smiles. He points out that Roxy has the potential to grow even stronger than the pureblood children. Odin defends his failure. The girl is only alive because he ordered her captured intact, but Loki notes she still survived against her complete opposite. Loki tells the god to be patient. He wonders aloud if Roxy might become a seed that surpasses the purebloods entirely. Elsewhere, Aldwin Hector tests his crossbow in a rocky ravine. The projectile flies too low and slow. He decides to carve the arrows from lighter wood. This way, anyone can use the weapon easily. Knowing they have a long road ahead, he watches the sunrise. Aldwin rushes across the desolate terrain, desperate to get back to Roxy. He remembers the 2 weeks she lay unconscious, when he carefully wrapped her in blankets while her body absorbed the light to heal. He also remembers how Megan refused to leave her side for even a moment. Sitting outside, Aldwin reviews his notebook of monster anatomy, lost in thought. He recalls the day he begged Megan to help him lure a giant out of the swamp with a weighted doll. He remembers how Megan dismissed the idea, and how he argued that seeing the beast was the only way to find its weaknesses. He remembers Megan asking if this was a hunter's habit, and how he explained that preparing for what beasts hate was his only way to survive. He remembers promising to only watch from afar, pleading that his hunting experience might finally be helpful. He recalls the creature emerging from the murky water with a deafening roar, preparing to attack. He remembers deducing that blinding its many eyes would break its balance, allowing them to smash the teeth guarding its stone. He recalls comparing its structure to the acid giant they had fought previously. He thinks about practicing his high kicks later that day. He remembers asking Megan if his improved height would let him strike the eye in one shot. He remembers deciding to keep testing tactics until they found a way to smash the stone, because he knew he could not destroy the beast instantly like his teacher. In his memories, Roxy reads through his detailed analysis and praises his meticulous work. She cries, thanking him for taking her struggles so seriously. Aldwin tells her that she saved his life, so he will do anything to help his best friend. Suddenly, they both realize his notes might hold the exact answer they need right now. Roxy points to a book and explains that attacking a giant's eye breaks its balance, making it possible to fight them. Aldwin reacts with shock, asking if that is really true. He remembers the acid giant and realizes that if Roxy had not thrown a stone to distract it, he would have died right there. Roxy reminds him that surviving a giant is a battle in itself, and not giving up is the best counterattack. Aldwin agrees. He immediately plans to weave stronger ropes and attach gunpowder to his arrows, because he needs better weapons to survive. Back in the present, Aldwin looks at the unconscious Roxy and reflects that without that past training, he never could have rescued her from prison. He asks her to wake up, complaining that making weapons alone is boring. Suddenly, Roxy opens her eyes and asks for beef stew, making Aldwin shout her name while Megan laughs. Over a boiling pot, Roxy is shocked to learn she slept for 2 weeks. Megan explains that condensing her light puts immense strain on her body, so she must grow stronger to handle the heat. Roxy instantly jumps up and asks to go train. Megan orders her to sit down and eat, warning that Roxy will have to step over her to leave the cave. Meanwhile, out in the snowy night, a man approaches the cave and announces he found Loxy Marcia. 3 hooded figures march toward the light, ready to strike. Roxy notices something and warns Aldwin they have a guest. Aldwin hears nothing, but he immediately tells her not to go out because it could be an enemy. Roxy and Aldwin freeze in shock. They realize these are soldiers of the Valhalla army. Aldwin recognizes the squad that tried to capture Roxy and asks how persistent they are. Instead of attacking, the leader addresses Aldwin by name. He explains that they researched his past as a solitary hunter and have been looking for him. Another soldier points out that the wound Aldwin gave him still throbs. Aldwin tells Roxy to stay behind him, wondering if he has a bounty on his head too. Instead, the leader extends a hand and invites him to join their army. Aldwin wonders what kind of nonsense this man is spewing. The soldier explains that he was deeply impressed by Aldwin's judgment and agility on the cliff. He tells Aldwin it is a waste of talent to rot here, but Aldwin instantly refuses. A little later, Aldwin yells at Roxy for sharing the rice he made, but she simply notes that the soldiers were hungry. The soldiers eagerly devour the food and praise how delicious it is. When one asks if Aldwin cooked it, he defensively asks what they plan to do about it. The soldiers immediately beg him to join their unit. Roxy happily notes that they are in perfect harmony. Aldwin refuses again, declaring that he hates Odin and will never serve him. The leader accepts this, admitting that seeing Roxy made him realize Odin's order was unjust. He officially introduces himself as Lieutenant Kyle Lamon, and his soldiers introduce themselves as Liam and Noah. Roxy stares at them and suddenly remembers the swamp giant. During that mission, a monster slaughtered their comrades in a bloody massacre. Kyle confirms that these are the surviving men Roxy saved that day. Noah looks at Roxy and explains that he came all this way just to give his thanks. Back at Valhalla, the soldiers hold a funeral for Owen. Kyle Lamon explains that Owen's mother asked him to pass on her gratitude to the person who saved her surviving son. In the cave, Kyle and his men snap to attention and salute Loxy Marcia, thanking her for saving their lives. Soon after, the soldiers panic and urge Kyle to leave before they are caught fraternizing with a wanted fugitive. They admit they are glad to be excluded from her capture mission because they never want to face her as an enemy again. The squad waves goodbye and thanks Alban Hector for the food. Before departing, two soldiers excitedly ask Megan Yahaz for a handshake. She tells them to piss off, and they immediately apologize. Kyle promises to repay Roxy if they ever meet again and tells her not to die before then. Megan casually invites Aldwin to join her anytime, but he vehemently refuses. Standing alone by the water, Roxy realizes she is finally strong enough to cross the swamp. She opens a small box containing her golden light, knowing she can now reach the Dirt Clan. Suddenly, Aldwin sprints over and shouts at their teachers leaving. Roxy demands to know why she is abandoning them. Megan simply states that since the path to the Dirt Clan is open, she has nothing more to teach her. Megan tells Roxy and Aldwin to say their farewells, because she is leaving tonight. The thought of separating hits Aldwin hard, and he cries that he will not be able to cook for Roxy anymore and does not want to break up. He gathers his supplies, packing spare clothes, food, bullets, and a knife. He remembers Roxy asking about his future and suggesting he join the Valhalla army, since his weapon-making skills are a waste otherwise. She admitted that if she had his weapons back when she sold books, she would have been far less scared of giants. She had noticed him working day and night and asked if he had a plan, and he cheerfully confirmed he did. Earlier that evening, Aldwin runs through the village and tracks down his friend Jack. Jack bows deeply and apologizes, admitting he let the bounty blind him into pretending he did not know Roxy. Aldwin forgives him, reasoning that to a stranger, Roxy is just a wanted person, so Jack only did what anyone else would do. He explains that the recent battle proved his weapons work, which has made him certain of the path he must take. He tells Jack this is his only chance to leave and bids him farewell. Jack watches him run off, wonders when his friend became so cool, and considers trying something other than hunting. Back in the present, Aldwin catches up to Roxy and Megan in the snowy mountains and asks his teacher for a favor. He loudly declares that he wants to follow Megan wherever she goes, prompting Roxy to ask if he is really leaving with their teacher. Aldwin remembers how he used to think humans were completely helpless against giants, and simply accepted that he might die to one. Aldwin remembers how he used to think he could never fight back. He tells Roxy that seeing her courage inspired him to throw his first stone at a giant. He thanks Roxy for showing him this path. Aldwin turns to Megan, recalling the absolute terror of waiting for death. He knows many people are still paralyzed by that same fear, so he wants to prove that ordinary humans can fight back. He vows to share his methods to help others survive. Roxy realizes this is why he prioritized making weapons anyone can swing easily. She warmly praises his kindness. Aldwin immediately bursts into tears. Megan warns him that following her will be dangerous because she plans to actively hunt giants. Aldwin insists he will survive if they stay together. Megan agrees to bring him along provided he stays out of the way. Aldwin realizes they need more supplies to feed Megan and announces he is heading back. He begs them not to leave without him. Roxy asks Megan why Aldwin is leaving, but the teacher simply orders her to follow him. He leads her to the Tree of Promise. Megan explains that this tree contains Asha's life. He reveals that 17 years ago, Asha gave him this seedling infused with her blood, ordering him to protect Roxy. Roxy remembers Odin's words and asks if her mother joined his rebellion. She asks if his fatal injury is real. Megan confirms it. He pulls back his clothes to reveal his chest, stating that he lost half of his heart in that war. Megan reveals his scarred chest. He explains that he lost half of his heart and only survived because Asha shared her strength to sustain him. If his circulation is disturbed, he becomes completely powerless. He remembers the battle against Odin as a nightmare that claimed many of his colleagues. Their clan members are still trapped in Odin's castle. Roxy finally realizes the true reason for the rebellion. Megan declares that they were never just rebels, because they formed a liberation army to free the Golden Children. After their defeat, he hid himself away to avoid any more death. But seeing Roxy proves that Asha's light never went out, so he decides to believe one more time. He vows to achieve the dreams they failed to reach that day. He tells Roxy how she ran from her nest, breaking down walls to forge her own path. She ran to turn the golden light into a light of freedom, and Megan declares that he is leaving to do the same. He hands her a dagger to pursue her own dream, admitting he once thought her quest to revive Lila was a silly fantasy, but since she grabbed onto the light herself, he tells her to cross the wall she broke with all her might. Megan Yahaz tells them to have a safe trip. He is proud to call them his students. Aldwin bursts into tears. He's terrified that Roxy will become too incredible to ever speak to him again, but she promises that will never happen. He swears he will always be on her side. They share a warm hug. Aldwin then leaps at Megan for a goodbye embrace. The rebel leader forcefully grabs his hair and threatens to hit him. Stepping into the snow, Roxy announces she is leaving. Megan orders her to eat well and keep a hat on to hide her face from the Valhalla army. He is certain they will all meet again at the same destination. Roxy confidently agrees. She vows Lila will be right beside her when they do. As she leaps away, Megan softly notes that bringing her sister back is a heavy dream. Aldwin tells him not to worry because Roxy will only get stronger. He believes her kindness will change everything around her. Walking alone, Roxy remembers her childhood with Asha. She recalls how her mother navigated by the stars so they never got lost in the dark. Asha and Dino would keep watch for giants while Roxy and Lila salvaged books from abandoned libraries to sell in nearby villages. When they returned home, the four of them would share a warm meal. Roxy realizes they were happy because they overcame the fear together. Back at the camp, Megan looks up at the sky. He is relieved, hoping Asha is finally at peace after everything she endured. He gently touches the remnants of the tree. He tells his old friend to rest peacefully. He swears to carry on her will. Like that, the allies go their separate ways into the freezing mountains. They carry different hopes in their hearts for the war to come. Roxy trudges through the bitter cold, determined to reach the Dirt Clan. She slips and tumbles through the forest, trembling with cold and frustration. She cries out into the wilderness, complaining that she has wandered for days and is almost out of the food Aldwin gave her. She remembers Megan telling her that the clan lives inside a huge underground crevice. Staring at the crudely drawn map, Roxy screams in frustration, wondering how she is supposed to find a crack in the ground with such vague directions. Realizing there are no villages nearby, she suddenly hears human voices echoing through the trees. She rushes over to ask for directions, startling two men who scream. Once they realize she is human, they warn her to be careful because giants frequently roam the area. Roxy explains she is looking for the Dirt Clan, so the men assume she is a beginner miner looking for work. They ask if the collector failed to give her the exact location, and Roxy plays along, mentioning her instructions to find a huge crevice. The men complain that a halfie has been costing them work lately. Roxy has no idea what they mean, but she just smiles and nods. One of the men offers to guide her, and Roxy happily agrees to follow them to the clan. As they walk, the man asks what weapon she brought, warning her that the work is dangerous and she will get hurt without one. Roxy casually admits the journey has been hard, but then a realization stops her in her tracks. She remembers Megan telling her that aside from the underground Dirt Clan, there should not be a single human out here. As they continue through the snowy forest, one of the hunters stares at her and asks if they have met before. Roxy panics, remembering she is a wanted fugitive, and loudly insists she has never seen him. The man shrugs it off and tells them to hurry. They reach a snowy rock face. When Roxy says she cannot see anything, the hunter demonstrates how rubbing the icy wall reveals traces of unnatural substances. He explains that the Dirt Clan cleverly builds fake walls to hide, a secret they only learned by paying the collector. He warns Roxy to keep quiet because their work has become much harder lately. He admits he only brought her along because she looked desperate for money, then orders her to hide. Crouching in the snow, Roxy wonders why the Dirt Clan is so reluctant to be seen. The hunter readies his rifle, vowing to catch one this time. He is still furious that he lost his last target because of that halfie, Sean, and curses the cowards who abandoned the job. He loads a poison projectile. He tells himself that without the sunlight, they would have died multiple times in this freezing wasteland. Roxy watches them prepare and realizes they are hunting the clan, not meeting them. She tries to speak up, but the hunter shushes her. The icy wall suddenly collapses inward. The hunter tells Roxy to watch carefully as a masked figure in a red cloak steps out of the new cavern. The hunter points out the Dirt Clan member pulling a cart of rocks. Roxy gasps, recognizing the person under the cloak. Roxy lunges forward, yelling for the clan member to move out of the way. But the hunter fires his weapon first. The poison projectile strikes its target. The cloaked figure cries out in pain and crashes to the ground. One of the hunters cheers, but the leader tells him it is not over yet. The fallen clan member groans in fury. A jagged mass of earth erupts from the ground, looming over the hunters. The leader curses, realizing the poison has not paralyzed her yet. The hunters taunt the fleeing child, telling her to scurry off like a rat. One of them orders his partner to shoot her again, this time with a much stronger blast. Suddenly, Roxy grabs the hunter by the neck, demanding to know what they think they are doing. The hunter just smiles and replies that he is mining. He holds up a lit explosive and declares that the child is a rare ore. He unleashes a blast, screaming that she will make them a lot of money. Sean immediately dives in, shielding the terrified child from the impact. Furious, Sean demands to know what nonsense they are spewing, shouting that the child is a human being just like them. The hunters are shocked to see that the girl has vanished from their sights, completely protected by Sean. They aim their weapons again, but the child struggles against Sean's grip, demanding that he let her go. Sean warns her that it is dangerous, but she accuses him of being on the hunter's team and punches him in the face. They tumble into the snow and she scrambles back, warning him not to come any closer. Energy bursts around her as she screams that she has nothing to do with them and will not be fooled again. She breaks down in tears, crying that because of cruel people like them, She has lost so many friends, leaving Sean completely shocked. Sean turns back to the hunters, asking if this is going too far. But one of them warns him that the thing in front of him is not human. He tells her to shut up, yelling that she is just a valuable mineral. One of the hunters brags that they have already sold most of the petrified bodies. The young Dirt Clan girl cries out in fury, screaming that those rocks were her friends. The hunters just shoot at them, calculating how much euro they can get for the rest, and demand the survivors get out of their way. One of them punches the girl in the face, and a dark blast throws her back. A hooded figure watches as a young Dirt Clan boy catches her, shielding her terrified body with his own. Suddenly, a grinning giant looms over the snow, and the hunters scream in terror as they realize what it is. The creature laughs, cornering them. Roxy steps in. She notes that it is the smallest giant she has ever dealt with, and she charges, vowing to break it in one shot. She blasts forward in a burst of light and smashes the beast backwards. The monster shatters. The surviving hunter falls to the ground in relief, staring at Roxy in shock and wondering if she is a monster herself. Roxy ignores him and checks on the wounded boy. She realizes he is still alive and orders the girl to press hard on the wound to stop the bleeding. The girl panics, urging Roxy to run away now because the sun is going down. Suddenly, Roxy freezes. She senses a heavy vibration rumbling beneath the ice. The ground gives way. They scream as they fall into an icy cavern. They crash into deep water just as a sharp shadow emerges from the depths. One of the fighters screams at the others to keep running toward the forest. A white-haired hunter stares in shock, wondering how such a huge beast can fit underground. A green-haired fighter charges forward, realizing this beast is like the swamp giant but far stronger, and launches a strike. The creature flinches, but then it roars. It shatters the earth as it bursts upward. Suddenly, the giant begins to crumble, and the green-haired fighter panics because he did not even see what broke its stone. Nearby, an enemy complains that the annoying miners have returned, but decides this is perfect timing. He promises that they are all going to die here. A hunter spots the attacker, shocked to realize it is just a boy, and wonders if he destroyed the giant stone with his bare hand. Roxy cries out for Aaron as he collapses into the snow. She rushes over to ask if he is okay, but another figure charges in. The enemy orders her to put her filthy hands away right now. He blasts her backward. She coughs up blood, realizing that even though she blocked the hit properly, the sheer strength behind it is overwhelming. A hunter is crushed by heavy debris. He struggles against the surprisingly sturdy dirt. He cries out for his attacker to wait, insisting he is not a miner and that there has been a misunderstanding. Sean grabs the captive and asks why he should believe her now, noting that every intruder says the same thing when caught. He demands a straight answer. He asks if they were the ones responsible for the recent attack. The earth erupts around them. A swirling rock monster rises from the ground, trapping the intruders in its debris. They scream in terror. One of the men recognizes their attacker and calls him a halfie. Another complains that this half-petrified boy has cost them a lot of work recently, and that the collector will be furious. A distressed captive begs Sean to at least treat a poisoned member of the Dirt Clan before it spreads. Sean scoffs, pointing out the hypocrisy of them shooting her and then acting worried. He sarcastically praises their disgusting courage for crawling back. A trapped hunter pleads to be released. He promises to leave the mountain immediately, but Sean unleashes his dark energy, taunting them for ignoring the people they hurt. He fires a blast of power, reminding them of his warning never to return to this mountain. Dark tentacles of earth engulf the panicked hunters. Sean furiously declares that regardless of what they call him, they should never have touched his clan. A hunter looks up in horror, realizing a heavy attack is falling. Sean vows to show mercy one last time by ending them without pain. The trapped men scream as a rock crashes down on them. The explosion rips through the icy landscape. Nearby, another man turns his head, startled by the sudden blast. The cavern shakes as an explosion blasts a purple armored attacker backward into the dirt. He gasps for air, terrified, and admits that he almost died. Looking at the destruction, he realizes that a single second of hesitation would have been fatal. Aldwin Hector watches the dust settle and points out that the attacker took a direct hit, yet remains completely unharmed. He notes the sheer physical power required to shatter the stone floor, and asks if the attacker is even human. Roxy steps forward, arguing that even if these people committed unforgivable sins, it does not give anyone the right to execute them. A white-haired fighter ignores her, striking the large purple creature and demanding to know if it plans to abandon its comrades just to survive. He hoists the struggling creature up, threatening to smash it into the stone because a lonely death in the dark suits it perfectly. The creature breaks down crying, begging to be spared just this once and swearing it will never return. Seeing this pathetic display, Aldwin realizes the creature genuinely tried to kill them moments ago, and wonders how they are supposed to fight such a contradictory monster. Suddenly, one of the creatures reaches into its own body and pulls out a grotesque, bloody organ. Roxy and the others freeze in absolute shock. The creature lets out an agonizing scream as the bloody mass pulses in its hands. A memory flashes through the creature's mind, showing a pale hand gently holding its own. The master praises the creature for its hard work, then digs his claws into its side and orders it to bring back the intruder's eyes. Back in the present, the creature stares at its bleeding palm, knowing that if it fails to obey that smiling master, it will be slaughtered. Clutching its bloody side, it tells itself that it has no other choice. Driven completely mad by fear, the creature lunges forward with a knife, screaming that it must take their eyes. The white-haired fighter intercepts the attack and furiously grabs the creature by the collar, calling it a bastard to the very end. The blade plunges down, but the attacker is intercepted and collapses into the snow. The creature throws a desperate punch to end the fight. Roxy begs it to stop, warning that she cannot protect it any longer. It tells her not to get in its way, rambling that it absolutely has to pull out those eyes. It suddenly collapses, leaving Roxy to wonder if it fainted. Before she can react, a shadowy hand reaches for her head. She crashes into the dirt, and Sean asks who she really is while accusing her of pretending to be nice. Roxy tells him to just do what he always does if he is really one of the miners. Sean points out that the sun is finally rising. Roxy watches in horror as the morning light touches his skin, turning his flesh to stone. He challenges her to draw her knife, since she needs to gouge out his eyes. Suddenly, a giant fist crashes down from above and knocks Sean away. He scrambles up in the forest, furiously demanding to know who just hit him. Shan freezes in shock as he recognizes his father. Roxy watches from the ground, finding the older man incredibly intimidating. The father yells at Sean, asking how he can be so blind to what is right in front of him. Sean protests that he is only trying to catch the miners, while Roxy repeats that she is not one of them. His father punches him in the head, screaming that she clearly does not look like a miner. He explains that he watched the fight, and Roxy never once tried to attack, even when pushed to the edge. When Sean argues that she is just weak, his father asks who he thinks saved Aaron. Gerd Eggle asks who blocked the knife. Sean admits he was going to, but the girl intervened first, and Gerd sternly reminds him that without her, Aaron would have been seriously injured. He then spins around and shouts at the girl, bowing deeply to apologize for the trouble his son caused. Noticing the blood on her, he offers a cloth, insisting she needs treatment. He asks for her name, and she introduces herself as Loxy Marcia. But as he checks her arm, he realizes the wound has already healed completely, leaving Sean staring in shock. Roxy asks if they are the Dirt Clan, because she has a favor to ask of them. Shan remains suspicious of how she found their hidden home, but his father just smiles, ready to hear her out. Gerd tells his son it is time to head home, ordering him to treat their valuable guest well. Instead of walking, Gerd drives his fist into the ground with a powerful burst of energy, shattering the rock beneath them. The ground collapses, sending the men plummeting into the depths, and Roxy screams as she falls right after them. As she tumbles down the steep drop, she remembers her teacher Megan telling her to find a huge crevice and wonders if this is what she meant. Up ahead, Gerd cheerfully announces that this part is a slide, while Roxy screams in absolute terror. The old man cheerfully wishes them a good time as Roxy and her allies plummet headfirst into the deep cavern. They scream in terror as they slide down the steep, rocky tunnel. An unseen force pulls them further in until they crash onto the stone floor. Nearby, Gerd Eggle asks his men if they found the cause of the earthquake, and whether it was a giant. A young clan member looks through the wooden bars and is shocked to realize their captive is a guest. They laugh at the mess caused by Sean's misunderstanding, and Sean bows his head to apologize. Sean clarifies that she was originally with the miners, confirming to the others that their enemies have returned. Gerd Eggle notices Sean's face is partially petrified, and he asks in alarm if a miner did this to him. A clan member furiously threatens to cut off the miners' tendons and hang them from a cliff. Sean insists he is fine. He reports that Aaron was the one who got assaulted. Gerd Eggle offers to guide them to Mr. Irwin in the treatment room, and he asks Ronan to take the two guests along. Ronan is furious to find the miners brought into their camp. Gerd Eggle explains that one of them was crushed by a giant and will die soon if left alone. Sean holds his head in distress, then screams at his father to just let them die. Gerd Eggle passionately argues that their lives are equal. Sean laments that the miners do not even see them as human, but his father asks if they should treat them the same way. He explains that leaving a dying person to perish would turn them into rotten people swayed by hatred. Sean turns his back and walks away. He tells his father he can play the hero alone because he refuses to help such trash. Ronan silently watches him go. Ronan defends Sean, explaining that he only acts this way because he thinks he has to protect his clan. Roxy understands. She knows he attacked her because he cherishes his clan. Ronan smiles and formally introduces himself. Roxy happily agrees that they should speak comfortably as friends. Spotting Sean trying to sneak away, Ronan calls him out, prompting the embarrassed boy to snap at him to wait in the office. As Sean grumbles about always cleaning up their messes, an older man with glasses calls Roxy over. She stares in awe. He welcomes her to Nidavellir, the underground city of the Dirt Clan. Handing her a warm drink, he casually mentions that it has been years since the Golden Tree clan last visited. Roxy demands to know how he knew her wound would heal. He laughs, pointing out that she is completely transparent. He apologizes for teasing her and fondly remembers a ridiculously strong friend he once had in the Tree Clan. Roxy proudly reveals that her teacher is Megan Yehaz. The man is completely stunned. He bursts into joyous laughter, thrilled that Megan actually took on a student. He introduces himself as Gerd Eggle, the head of the Dirt Clan, and reveals that he was longtime friends with Megan and the original owner of Roxy's earring. He repeats his introduction, cementing his deep ties to her past. Amazed that he knew her mother Asha, Roxy eagerly asks if there are other Dirt Clan members inside Odin's castle. Gerd smiles and explains that he met them while digging tunnels, a hobby that used to earn him a painful beating from Megan. Setting his own past aside, Gerd asks to hear Roxy's story. He wants to know exactly what favor she needs from his clan. Roxy struggles to find the words, admitting that the memory of that day is still painful and scary. Gerd tells her to take her time. He then catches Sean eavesdropping at the door. Sean vehemently denies being curious. Gerd reminds Sean that he attacked Roxy, so he should at least know who she is, and asks why he trusts her. Sean simply replies that he doesn't think she is a bad person. Roxy finally speaks up, explaining that she came here to revive her sister. Gerd and Sean listen quietly. Gerd processes the truth about Odin and thanks Roxy for sharing her story. Then he declares that they can definitely revive Lila. Both Roxy and Sean stare in shock. Gerd explains that they need special dirt from Urd's well, a place managed by the goddess of fate. A vessel is essential to hold Lila's heart. Gerd reveals that the only one with the blood to create that body is Sean. Sean freezes. Roxy immediately beams at him, making Sean flustered as he begs her to stop staring. He yells at Gerd for hiding this from him, arguing that bringing back the dead makes no sense at all. Gerd explains that it is possible, because the Golden Tree clan are not ordinary humans. However, Urd's well lies deep within God's territory. Gerd promises they will help, but asks if Roxy is still willing to go. Roxy vows to do whatever it takes for her sister. Sean watches her resolve in silence. Gerd agrees to the plan and enthusiastically offers Sean's help, much to Sean's horror. Sean vehemently refuses, demanding to know why he should leave for some unknown place. Roxy is startled by his outburst. Sean tells Roxy he understands her situation, but humans hunt their clan every day. He vows to protect his people no matter what. He walks out of the room before Roxy can stop him. Gerd admits the stories he just heard leave him baffled. He tells Roxy that since Sean has the right blood, his own blood could also save Lila, and he wishes he could go with her right away. However, he knows he cannot make the journey. He pauses, then shoves Ronan out the door, ordering him to persuade Sean despite Ronan protesting that the boy is too stubborn. Left alone, Gerd remembers Asha and Lila. He collapses to his knees and covers his face, confessing how much his heart hurts for them. Roxy tries to imagine what they went through but finds it impossible. She hurries outside, calling out for Sean. Nearby, Sean leaves Ronan tied to a wall to stop him from interfering. He mutters about their persistence and keeps walking. He retreats to a cave and gently holds a small rock creature named Aina, swearing he will never abandon the clan. He repeats his vow to Aina. A moment later, Roxy spots him on a rocky slope, relieved to finally track him down. Sean warns her to stop following him because his mind is made up. Roxy chases after him anyway, begging to talk. She tells herself she understands his hesitation, since to him she is just a stranger asking him to leave his home. The falling bodies crash directly into them. Shan scrambles up and furiously scolds Lena and Inna for playing so dangerously. Lena and Inna explain they were just playing hide and seek, but one tripped. They argue about telling their mother. They assure Roxy they only twisted an ankle. Roxy tells them it is fine as long as they are not hurt. Roxy looks confused. The children notice her arm is bleeding and panic because they think they caused the injury. Roxy reassures them it is an old wound. She applies a medicinal herb to the arm. The children apologize again. Someone shushes them. Roxy declares that the wound is completely healed. The children ask who she is and she introduces herself as Roxy. They bombard her with questions about where she is from and if she knows Sean. Sean warns them to stop asking so many questions. A man appears and laughs. Sean complains about him popping out of nowhere. Roxy wonders if this is Mr. Irwin. The man greets Lena and Inna. Roxy is surprised. Irwin introduces himself and shakes her hand. He asks if she is hurt from fighting Sean because the story has spread. He explains that he is a doctor. He offers to treat any wounds she might have. Roxy asks what happened to the injured miners. Irwin explains he treated them both. He says the one with the crushed arm will be lucky to wake up. He notes the other miner had a strange anomaly. It looks like something was implanted into his leg. Roxy asks what that means. Sean tells Irwin to notify him when they wake up. Privately, Sean wonders about the chunk of flesh he saw earlier. He realizes he has seen something like it before. Roxy calls out his name. Irwin asks Sean if the petrification spread anywhere besides his face. The children panic. Sean assures them his face is already healed. Roxy expresses relief that he is recovering. Irwin explains that they can slowly recover from skin petrification as long as they avoid the light, but if it reaches their muscles and bones, they die. Roxy is shocked. Irwin tells her this is why the children cannot play above ground in a light of freedom. Inna admits they have never been outside. Inna asks what the outside world is like. Sean pats the child's head. Roxy realizes the entire clan is trapped down here, unable to ever learn that the light is what makes us strong. She suppresses a sound of grief. A blade is pressed to her neck. She ignores it and offers to give the children a tornado swing. Roxy plays with the children, swinging them around in a tornado swing as they run through the town. The kids ask her to hang out again later, and she happily agrees. Sean calls Roxy by her name for the first time, and she is completely overjoyed. Sean explains that Aaron and the others have recovered after taking the antidote, and admits he is surprised she protected them from the giant. He bows and apologizes for misunderstanding her, so Roxy offers her hand to make up, and they shake on it. Elsewhere, in a dark room, a chained man groans in pain and begs for help. He wakes up gasping, staring in shock at his severely injured arm. The collector steps out of the shadows, and the injured man demands to know what he did to them. The collector innocently claims he saved him, but warns him to hurry up and move because it is time to work. Later, Roxy marvels at glowing flowers blooming underground, and Sean explains that this is where the children found the herbs to treat her. He tells her to speak comfortably, revealing that even though he looks smaller right now, they are actually the same age. Roxy excitedly grabs his arm and declares them colleagues, though Sean immediately protests. Sean tells her not to be shocked. Just as Ronan arrives with a basket of sandwiches, they admire the blooming field, and Ronan reveals that his hobby is collecting seeds. Sean shoves him, and Ronan dramatically complains that his spine is going to break. Ronan offers the food to Roxy, urging her to eat a lot, and she happily stuffs her face. Ronan is glad she's eating well, but Roxy suddenly notices a flower moving. She tries to dismiss it as her imagination, but Ronan casually mentions that they do move sometimes, making her realize the plant is alive. Roxy gasps as she realizes actual sunlight is shining down on them. Sean immediately grabs her and dives out of the way, leaving Ronan confused. Sean yells at him to get to the corner before the light petrifies them. Ronan just laughs, explaining he made a hole to let the flowers see the light safely. Roxy apologizes for her fuss, but Ronan notes that Sean usually roams around without fear, which is why the miners know he is a halfie. Hearing this, Roxy asks why the miners are attacking them and treating Aaron like a mineral. She insists they are still human, but Sean coldly tells her to stay out of their clan's affairs. Ronan ignores him and explains that fully petrified members sell for a fortune because a rumor spread 5 years ago about a buyer paying handsomely for Dirt Clan eyes. Suddenly, humans begin hunting them, forcing the clan into hiding. Sean admits he tried to track down the buyer, but only learned that the miners call him the Collector. Roxy realizes this is the same Collector the miners mentioned when they bragged about finding the way to the clan. A clan member confirms that this Collector is the cause of all their suffering. He explains that the Dur clan used to live a peaceful life forging weapons, but the moment the miners became active, their furnaces went out and their normal lives collapsed. In the memorial cave, Sean tells Roxy that they have been fighting humans for a long time. He gestures to the glowing stone tablets, revealing that every word written on them is the name of a lost friend or family member. Roxy approaches the glowing rocks and spots a stone golem doll left as a tribute. She notices something strange and asks why one specific name has been crossed out. Sean coldly tells her to mind her own business and stop asking questions. Roxy insists she just wants to help, offering to gather information for them during the day when they cannot move. Sean clarifies that his earlier apology was only to resolve their misunderstanding because he has no desire to be close to her. He suggests they just go their separate ways. Another clan member angrily grabs Sean by the collar, demanding he apologize to Roxy for rejecting her good intentions. Suddenly, a violent tremor shakes the cave. Sean realizes this is not the usual rumbling of a giant passing overhead because the sound of the approaching footsteps is completely different. A massive cloud of dust erupts from the tunnels below. Up on the icy cliffs, Jack anxiously asks Aldwin Hector what he is doing. Aldwin Hector explains that he has been tracking the source of the vibrations, and he just heard a sound coming from the nearby wall. Elsewhere in the settlement, Ronan reassures the panicked residents that it was likely just an earthquake and urges them to return home. But as the dust clears, the clan members discover a massive, freshly carved tunnel. Looking at the glowing debris left behind, they realize something enormous has just burrowed through the rock. Roxy wonders if it was a giant, remembering the earlier tremors. Gerd Egel notes that if it is a giant, they can simply chase it away, but he stares at the strange tunnel with growing unease. Back at the Dirt Clan, panicked members cry out. A woman tearfully reports that Lena and Inna have disappeared. Sean is completely shocked. Elsewhere, two men flee with a large sack. One urges his partner to hurry before Sean catches them. The other protests that the kids are too young. A Dirt Clan man chases after them. He begs the men to drop the sack. He pleads with them to stop committing crimes against children. The hooded kidnapper warns him back. Hearing the children cry, he threatens to turn them into stone if the man tries anything stupid. Desperate, the man offers to take their place. He volunteers his own eyes to save them. Hearing this, the second kidnapper hesitates. He tells his partner they should stop. The hooded man furiously warns him that their boss is watching. The large man admits they will die if they disobey, but he is sick of this life. His partner demands to know why he is breaking their contract. He remembers the collector's advice. To make the cruelty easier, the collector forced them to repeat a simple phrase. They called their victims lumps of stone. Back in the present, the large man lies bleeding out. He accepts his death as fair punishment. Even so, he regrets it. He wanted to live properly. Suddenly, Sean arrives. He finds the injured man still breathing, and his face hardens with determination. Mr. Irwin argues that their situation is no reason to die because they are human beings just like anyone else. On the ground, Aaron cries out in agony, screaming that he never wanted to do this. Suddenly, a grotesque mass of flesh bursts from his body and begins to devour him. Mr. Irwin and the children watch in absolute horror. Aaron thrashes wildly. He screams that his arm is moving on its own, desperately denying that he ever wanted this. As the growth engulfs him, he shrieks for it to stop. Mr. Irwin screams at Lena and Inna to run. A multi-mouthed beast emerges from the gore. The terrified children collapse to the ground. Mr. Irwin throws his arms around them, softly promising that everything is going to be fine. He tells them to hold hands and head back to the village, reminding them that their tunnel digging practice will keep them safe. Standing in a growing pool of blood, he gently asks for an answer so he can feel relieved. They tearfully agree. As the children flee, Mr. Irwin turns back to seal the path behind them. As they run through the dark tunnel, Ina cries out, asking why their teacher is not coming when he is sick and cannot use the power of dirt. She desperately suggests bringing Sean, because he is strong enough to save him. Back at the cavern, Mr. Irwin stands alone against the beast, telling himself that he is fine and silently vowing to follow them soon. As they continue through the underground, the girls hope they can find Sean to help him. As they explore a massive tunnel, Ina wants to follow it to their village, but Lena hesitates, realizing the passage is far too big for their clan to have dug. Lena suddenly hears the sound of digging, and before Ina can understand, they freeze in terror. A creature roars from the shadows. Elsewhere in the caves, Ronan complains about the endless path and suggests digging straight up to the surface like Gerd Egel. Sean refuses, warning that they have to search the tunnel because they might miss the children otherwise. An impact shakes the cave, and the children yell for the others as they flee. The monster lunges at the girls just as Sean and Ronan arrive, and the two men are shocked to realize the creature is a giant. The beast fires a beam of energy, forcing Ronan to grab the children and brace for the impact. Sean steps in front of the creature, clenches his fist, and furiously orders it to die. He unleashes a fiery explosion to destroy the beast and shield the others. As the dust settles, Sean notices the remains have not completely vanished, and he wonders where its core stone is, since that usually breaks last. Looking closer at the strange mass, he realizes it looks exactly like the monster the collector summoned earlier. They stare at the giant's remains, questioning if this organic mass is the same creature they saw earlier. Meanwhile, back in the safety of the cave, Sean's father asks if the giant is finally gone. Rena and Ina quickly assure him that they are unhurt. He pats their heads, praising them for running away so bravely. Then he bursts into tears of sheer relief, pulling the children into a tight embrace. The girls cry too, explaining that they only escaped because Mr. Irwin let the bad people catch him. They tremble as they recall how Irwin's arm transformed before he promised he would return. Noting how much Irwin was bleeding, the kids beg Ani to save him. Sean promises they will bring him back. The children run into Sean's father's arms, teasing him for weeping. They happily tell him that Sean and Ronan have already defeated the giant. He is stunned by their reliability. The girls smile, confident that Sean and Ronan are already on their way to rescue Irwin. Out in the forest, the giant's body grinds against the earth. Irwin's bleeding face emerges from the flesh. Seeing his friend in agony, Sean screams Irwin's name and charges forward. An impact instantly throws him backward. He catches himself, stomping the ground to launch himself forward again. As he lunges back into the fight, Sean remembers a time when Irwin gently bandaged his injured leg. Irwin had cried over the cruelty of the miners, wishing he could fight them himself. Sean had been utterly confused, wondering why the doctor was weeping when he was the one bleeding. He remembers his father scolding him for killing the miners. Sean argues he is only doing this to protect them all. Back then, Irwin had just smiled, praising Sean's honest heart. Now, fueled by that memory, Sean throws himself at the monster. Irwin had once held him close, promising that they could share all their pain and sadness together. Sean silently vows to save the man who always stood by his side. The monster lunges forward and shatters the petrified target. Irwin's stone head breaks apart. Sean cries out his name. A strange energy envelops Sean as the collector gloats that he has finally caught them both. The beast devours Sean whole while Irwin's remains fall away. Sean watches his friend crumble and struggles against the force. The collector repeats his victory. His monster consumes its prey. Elsewhere, Gerd Egel stands in the cavern until Ronan reports that Lena and Ina have gone to sleep. Gerd Egel admits he is worried about Sean, Roxy, and Irwin, and leaves Ronan in charge to go search for them. Ronan protests, but Gerd Egel insists he must investigate the tunnel to see who dug it. He explains that the giant did not act on mere instinct because he senses a clear malice behind its movements. Back with the collector, he smiles in satisfaction, declaring he finally has the eyes he wanted most. As a victim is held at knife point, the creature emerges again. A survivor realizes this flesh is the same as the beast from before. Sean realizes this fleshy entity is the same one from the tunnel that covered the miners and Mr. Irwin. The monster regrets not choking him longer, so Sean asks if it used the miners to kill Irwin. The beast laughs in confirmation and swats him away. Furious, Sean retaliates with a heavy punch. His head throbs with a strange familiarity, but he pushes the feeling aside to demand what the creature did to Roxy. The monster carelessly suggests she is already dead, prompting Sean to yell at it to stop spewing nonsense. Giant hands suddenly crush him from all directions, and the creature threatens to break all his bones if he resists. Desperate, Sean screams for Roxy to wake up. Hearing his voice, Roxy breaks free from the bubbling mass and calls back to him. The monster tightens its grip on Sean, annoyed by the noise, and tells them they are both going to die anyway. An explosion rocks the area and Roxy sprints forward. The creature warns her that her ability is annoying and it should have killed her earlier. Sean tells Roxy that attacking the hand is useless, so he orders her to step on his own hand. He plans to throw her upward to destroy the main body, and Roxy agrees, charging forward to use him as a springboard. Sean groans under the strain as he launches her high into the air. Ronan unleashes an energy blast. A creature opens its mouth and tells him he really should not do that. The creature strikes him and reminds him that it had already given a warning. As he falls through the broken terrain, he realizes he completely forgot to grab the giant stone. Nearby, Sean wonders if the beast actually just spoke. Ronan sees that the stone hands have stopped moving and asks if Sean is alright. Sean thanks him for the help. Ronan asks Sean if he has ever seen a giant that speaks like a human. He explains that his previous targets only babbled, and he could not find this one stone to finish it off. Because the strange space is not disappearing, Ronan vows to find and kill whatever created it to avenge Mr. Irwin. Sean suggests they need to find a way out first. Suddenly, a large stone hand rises right beside them. Shan freezes. The two find themselves trapped under a dripping cavern ceiling surrounded by broken armored figures. Swirling energy gathers. A voice tells them it had already warned them. They stare in shock. The collector steps out of the shadows, asks why they look so surprised, and smiles because he is very happy to see them both.